All right, Kingkillers. In this episode, we cover chapters 72 through 77. We're going to cover the aftermath of the Mauthen Farm, hear about some pegs and blue fire, discuss what's up with Barrow Hill and the Greystones, and we meet a meth-addicted dragon. Also, we'll let you know what convention caused Fitz to miss this episode and where his obsession with Bronzer started, dig further into the all-important mystery of the missing bathroom breaks, and we'll let you know about our brilliant idea for the cover for Book 3. So sit back and enjoy. Welcome back, killers, to the Kingkiller podcast. We're a man down this episode as the illiterate alliterationist Fitz is acting like an objectionably outlandish Oompa Loompa and was not available this week. But fear not, we still have the preposterously pretentious pissant Tiny Tim and me, your clever and captivating captain, your handsome and humble hero, Dapper Dan. What's going on, Tim?
Well, I'm here. Not the most gracious introduction possible, but you nailed Fitz. You had him completely right, for sure.
Yeah, he's definitely he's always been known as an Oompa Loompa, and really shown his Oompa Loompa-ness in this this episode. Episode 19? And he fucking bails. Bails again. He does not care about you, audience. He's got his Oompa Loompa parade that he found to be more important.
You know, the audience should know he does dress just like an Oompa Loompa. He's dressed like them. He's about the same size, and his skin's all orange because he uses a lot of bronzer.
Yeah.
He's like addicted to bronzer. He's been using that shit since like middle school or junior high. You know.
Yeah, he pulls it off somehow. I mean, he looks okay.
Yeah, his palms are all.
But if you're around him a long time, you get used to it.
It's still weird. Still weird look, which is where the Oompa Loompa comes from.
Yeah,
and he's always rolling around, but he's not very coordinated. So it's like a lot of klutziness rolling around. It's not like he's tumbling professionally.
But I do think he's going to enjoy the alliterations I brought to the table for him. I think I really picked up his slack there, and the audience who has somehow developed a taste for alliterations in the openings. Well, you got it.
Yeah. That was definitely represented. So well done.
Thank you. I think I really nailed you too.
Yeah. No, but you really blew the nips off the people.
Oh yeah, fucking everybody's nips are blown off. Fucking nips blown off. Shit pants everywhere. And they came in expecting Fitz, and then fucking nips and shit flying everywhere.
So this is we're halfway through. What are we? Halfway through chapter 72.
Yeah, probably like a third of the way. I think we stopped. We did last episode. We just covered the theories for Master Ash, and so we got to the point in chapter 72 where they start talking about her patron, and Kavoth gives him the name Master Ash, and then we just went through the theories on who he might be as far as Braden and Cinder, and what different groups he might be a part of if he's Braden. So we'll start on 72 and finish up that chapter, and then we'll try to see how far we go. Maybe get to like 76, be the furthest. But so go ahead.
I was just going to say, an effort to like catch people back up. So we're on the way to the Mauthen Farm after Kavoth just found Denna at the place she was, the bar or whatever, and at the inn. And yeah, they're on their way there. And then basically, if I remember right, basically where we left off, they're on their way. They haven't quite reached it, but they're quite close. And yeah, because of all the things to talk about with who is Master Ash, that took up all that time, which is good stuff. Because a lot of it I hadn't pieced together. It's pretty great on both ends too. So yeah, you should listen to that episode if you haven't heard it. But yeah, so now we're getting close to the Mauthen Farm.
Yeah, so they just got off the wagon, and then from there, Dinah and Kavoth, they're going to examine what happened at the Mauthen Farm. They're going to come to the conclusion that it was the Chandrian who were responsible, and then they head out in search of Master Ash. And again, it's chapter 72, titled Barrow Rill.
That's we've talked about that. It's not a hill or something with water, like a hill with something.
I'm not sure what a rill is. I don't know if it has to do with water or if it's, some kind of mining fucking type thing. I'm not sure what a rill is.
Yeah, there's a couple times where I thought it was like a valley, and then it almost seemed like there should be like a water mill close. I don't know. I guess
it's a drill without the D.
Oh, okay.
So
well, we talked about, I guess it's not a barrow, because we already talked about how if it was a barrow without a wheel, then it's just like a thing you put trash in.
Yeah.
And then that's where we got.
That's how words work. Like you find out, like, does it sound like a different word, but it's missing part of it, and then that's all it is.
Well, the key is you just deadpan it. Whatever it is, you're just like, yeah, that's what it is. And then other people who aren't sure, as long as you're confident, they're like, well, I guess that's what it is. Yeah. And just roll off on that.
I do hope I get a chance in my life where someone asks me what a barrow is, and I get to tell them it's a wheelbarrow without wheels.
You should get into teaching. That would be perfect for you.
Yes, children are much more easily accepting of things, so I think I would be a very good teacher.
Yeah, I don't think you're going to get challenged too much.
I got a lot of wisdom to impart on the young.
So basically they pull up on this farm there, right? And they see like all the ruts from the wagon wheels pulling bodies out. We find out it was exactly 26, which I don't remember if we knew that before. Mm-hmm. Beforehand. And they start to, I guess they talk about possible suspects, which kind of builds the world out where, they're basically, are there feuds in these parts? And Dana's like, oh, yeah, of course, just like everywhere else, but, not like this. I mean, this is like 26 bodies. That's like some fucking mafia family, feud type thing.
Yeah, 7v26, and they fucking just wiped them out like it's nothing, it seems. And then, right before that, though, like they kind of, after he talks about, gives him his name, Master Ash, he also brings up that he sent her there. And she says she kept expecting Master Ash to make an appearance, but she's like, I knew I couldn't ask about him because she's like, it might be a test. Yeah. And then she mentions that he has a way of signaling her and, letting her know he's there. And then she went and excused herself from the wedding. And then she found him by the barn. And she says they head into the woods, and he asked her some questions. Who was there? How many people? What they look like? She said, now that I'm thinking of it, I think that was the real test. He wanted to see how observant I was. And Kavoth's like, he almost sounds like a spy. And Dennis says, we wandered around for about a half hour talking. Then he heard something. He told me to wait for him. He headed off towards the farmhouse and was gone for a long while. How long? 10 minutes? She shrugged. You know how it is when you're waiting for someone. It was dark and I was cold and hungry. So what was kind of interesting is like if it was like 10 minutes that he was gone and he heard something and he walked off, I also think that could lend credence to it being Braden versus Cinder. Because you would think that if it was Cinder, he would have been getting this information and then relaying it to the other Chandrian and then going in and massacring the farm. Or the other aspect of it too is like the Chandrian, they seemed to know what was going on. They knew they found something. They wanted to kill these people. They waited for a wedding to happen, so they've been waiting for this specific moment to happen. Why would they need Dinah to spy on the wedding? And
just to bring you up to speed, make sure I'm not missing something. When she says she waited 10 minutes, she waited 10 minutes for him to show back up, or she waited 10 minutes and then
he was gone for like 10 minutes.
And he showed
then he
back
came
up.
back. Yeah, then
okay, all right, got it.
Yeah, we find out later that he came back to her. At first, like, she just tells Kavoth here in a minute that, she saw some shadows and took off running and ran into a tree.
Mm-hmm.
But in reality, what happened is he came back, and then that's when he is like, tell me to fucking hit you.
Yeah, I was gonna say. So the tree was the excuse for why she's battered, right? She's like, I ran into a tree, when in actuality she got smacked down. Okay.
Yeah, and Kavoth immediately doesn't believe it because he's like, I've been working at the Medica for a long time now, and, he lists all the different injuries she's got. He's like, unless she fucking hit a oddly shaped tree, there's no way it was a tree.
There's a couple interesting things there. I'm interested to see how he signals her, like what that looks like or sounds like, or, whatever. I find little things like that when they drip them in like that kind of interesting. I guess it doesn't matter because, however, she was signaled she found them.
Maybe it could be like, he does something with, her ring or something, like how Kavoth signals Martin in the trees with sympathy. The twig. Yeah. So it could be something like that. I don't know. But regardless.
Well, wait. So you said when he signals Martin, he does that with his buddies on the Ambrose little mission. Does he do that with Martin as well? He puts like a twig.
Yeah, he scares the shit out of Martin when he does it the first time. He like takes a twig and tears it in half, and then gives him half, and then he like makes a bite and he shakes it. Martin like fucking freaks out, and he's like, "What the fuck was that?" And he's like, "It's just basically like putting a string between the two things." And he's like, "How hard can you pull this? Could you yank me out of a tree?" He's like, "No."
I think every time I've read that section, I read it really fast, and I forget a bunch of the details because I remember that detail with the Ambrose story because it kind of moves more gradually, and you get a lot of details because the details are like super important in that event. With not that the details aren't with that group with Martin and Daydan and them, but for whatever reason, every single time I've read it, it's something that pace picks up really quickly, and I get to that. I guess on multiple reads, I know what's coming. I get all jacked up about it because I know what it's going to be like. But it's probably also has a lot to do with the writing itself. But yeah, it's interesting thinking about because he leaves so much out with Dinah and the patron, and then there's so much suspicion with this event because it's the only other time that I can think of. I mean, other than if you want to talk about Cinder with the mercenaries and the event that we were just talking about, it's the only other time that the Chandrian's involved. Like we get actual live evidence, right? There's Kavoth's family, there's this, and then there's Cinder with the mercenaries. That's it, right?
Yeah.
So
that's it.
So I mean, the suspicion is massive, and we have to pull so much out of it to try to figure out who. Well, we know it's the Chandrian, so it's not as if we have to piece all that together. They give it, Rothfuss gives it to us, but with the patron, there's so much here, and I guess we did talk about that last episode, whether he's part of the Chandrian or whether he's part of the Emir or what groups he could be part of. But yeah, I mean, everything's so freaking suspicious because I guess he does help Dinah by, bashing her up a little bit, but he does dip out. It's not like he took her with him, which it seems like he could have. So what's that about?
Yeah, like my thought process would be like if it's Braden and maybe he knows how to travel through these like the portals basically,
like
through the Greystones, that maybe he just doesn't want to let her know how he's doing this stuff. This is information he's trying to keep from her, because otherwise, why wouldn't he? It seems like however he got out of there, it seems like the most likely explanation would be that he doesn't want her to know how. But then, like, as far as if it's Cinder and it's the Chandrian, why the fuck would they need Dinah to spy on it? Like, I mean, they were if you're able to know that they found this pot and that there's going to be a wedding, you're very aware of the events that are going on in this town. That you know what they found, you know who's seen it, you know when this wedding is, so you know when to show up to kill all these people. Like they would have a ton of information already that they were able to acquire without Dennis. So what the fuck would they need Dennis for? Why would they want the chance of having another witness?
It's also the most lethal group of individuals known to this world. And they're not taking on a battalion of military. They're taking on a bunch of people who are there to party.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So it's not like a defensive position. It's a bunch of people at a wedding. Like, that doesn't make a lot. You don't need reconnaissance.
No,
ahead of time for this type of an event. It's
like they didn't need any kind of fucking reconnaissance on Kavoth's, family getting murked, at least as far as we know. Maybe they did, but it just seems so weird. It seems like a weird choice that they need people to, like, so she can tell them that there's, 26 people there. Who gives a shit? They're going to fucking kill everybody.
Yeah, and it's not like they need her as an in, right? It's not, it's not like they have to be invited in or something like that.
And then, like, you would think, like, if they have a purpose for her bigger than that, like, that's what you're using her for, to fucking spy on these people, and then you're risking that she might walk up and see fucking you killing everybody, and then you got to kill her. And then, like, also, like, what, Cinder, he comes running up after they're massacring all these people, but he's not caked in blood, and, what, he can transform back into a guy that looks like her patron, and it hides away the blood, or Cinder is not joining in the killing. Like, he's
that
just
doesn't seem likely.
Fucking on the sidelines, like, doing fucking spy work, and then, like, and not only spy work, but spy work through someone else, and then he just runs in there real quick, and then he immediately runs out without getting in the mix of things or something. I mean, it just seems such a weird fucking choice if it's Cinder. Like, I don't understand what the... I would need to know more information. For it to be Cinder, I need to know more information about what went down there and exactly how that shit happened. And I don't see a scenario where we're going to hear all that.
Yeah, I guess for it to be plausible, there needs to be a lot more information to make that make sense. With Braden, there doesn't have to be as much. Right? I mean, it's more plausible.
Well, and it would make sense like that if Braden... Like, if you were going to get information, Braden telling Kavoth about it, like, you could see Braden, like, explaining what he was doing, why he was doing that, and why he was there. But I don't see Cinder being like, so, the reason I brought Dinah to the Mauthen Farm was to have her, we needed her to find out this and this information, and then I ran back in there, and then I ran out, and the reason I wasn't covered in blood was because of what? How are we going to get this information? I mean, I guess you could just not explain it, but that's going to be something that it's going to make it weaker, I think, make the story weaker if it's Cinder, and there's no explanation for why the fuck they would need her as a spy, and why Cinder was able to, run in there and not come back just caked in blood and gore. So yeah, I mean, it seems like he's given himself a lot more work with it being Cinder.
Yeah, it's a hard one to piece out. Yeah, all those happens, or all the reasoning that would be involved. There's one thing I just kind of passed over, and it's probably nothing, but I've made a note to myself every time I see gray stone to make a note. When describing the house, the foundation and the lower walls were solid gray stone. Now, it is spaced. It's not solid gray stone, it's solid gray stone.
That's how they describe, like, the door and the university, the 4-plate door as well, is described as gray stone, 2 words, not 1 word.
Okay.
Same thing when he goes into the Fae with Felurian. He describes seeing, like, gray stones, moonlit gray stones, He doesn't say gray stone, one word, it's 2 words. So there's multiple times where it seems to be clear that these are gray stones that he describes as gray colored stones.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's because of the power that seems to be included with gray stones. It's just one of those things that I've tried on this read through, especially to make more note of it. I don't know if it means a whole lot here, because we already have all these things that are happening within this place. Plus, we do know the stones that he used to build the house came out of like grave burial sites, right?
Yeah, Barrow, like
barrows,
the Shep or whatever, Shem or whatever his name was. He describes the stones as Barrow stones, and so that would make you believe that they built their house out of gray stones, is because there's the gray stones on the hill. It's a barrow. You think of the Barrow King and being King Phasia, and on the coin that Rothfuss has, King Phasia is standing in front of gray stones.
Yeah, the circle of gray stones, right?
Yeah, I mean it just shows us like 4 or 5 gray stone archways, like doors.
Those are the doorway gray stones. Yeah,
yeah.
Like
so
that was like the one with the Dracus, right? Wasn't that
correct? Yeah, which is right by the farm. It's just on the hill, and so that just overlooks the farm. And so if they found all these, there's gray stones on that hill. It's a Barrow. You think of like the Barrow King is associated with gray stones. It's probably, I think, safe to assume that they used gray stones for their house.
I wonder. It feels like those archway the gray stone archways seem to be. I feel like if there's a portal, if that's what this is, right, and that's what this feels like, these would be like the major arteries of that portal. You know what I'm saying? Like, when they describe the 4 corners, right?
Yeah.
It feels like I don't know if there's 4 of those major archways peppered throughout the land, but it feels like that. I mean, because so much happens here. The Mauthen Farm, then the Dracus. I mean, these are majorly impactful for the reader, for the experience that we get in these 2 books. I'm trying to think of where the other are there. We know Kvothes Dream, in which that's a circle of gray stones. Do we know other stone archways other than what we see on the coin?
Yeah, they're on the coin. The 4-plate door could be, you consider that a stone archway. You have the stone archway that they lay on top of when the Dracus comes.
Mm-hmm.
You have the story that Sem reads when they have their bet on what the meaning of gray stones is. He reads a book where they talk about a gray stone doorpost, where they talk about kids will play around it, but they tell their kids, not to play around it on a full moon night, or you might go into the Fae and get, entrapped by Florian. So, there's multiple mention of doorposts, gray stones that are set up like a door.
Is there one in Skeop's story?
Yeah, that's his story in Fae Reenial. There's a circle of gray stones.
Oh yeah. It ties in with Kvothes Dream.
Yeah. I don't know if they mention like a specific, like a doorpost, but they definitely mention a circle of gray stones. So, there could be some significance to doorposts. I mean, on that coin, the fact that King Phasia is standing in front of a bunch of gray stone doorposts makes you think that they're important in some aspect. I don't know specifically what they are. Maybe you have to go in order to get to Fae Reenial, you got to go through a doorpost like that. Or maybe when you try to hide things away, you hide them behind doorposts.
Well, if we weren't already getting the importance, that coin makes a massive difference. I mean, it just lends so much more importance to it, which we're already picking up because of all the multiple mentionings and how, within dreams and all these other things. I mean, it's in very important parts of Kvothes' character arc and his character's experience.
there's got to be a reason there are doorposts, and then there's other times where it's just gravestones by themselves.
Yeah,
there's got to be something that differentiates the two.
Yeah, there's a key. There's a key like differential between them. It almost feels like, out here in California. Remember, I don't know if you remember the Bell. So the oldest freeway they have in California, they have these bells on the side of the freeway. I don't remember if it's the one, maybe, or it's Route 66 or some shit. But it's just this marker, and it was old, old road. It almost feels like maybe those are just the oldest markers for the oldest road, but it is strange because some of them are at like the bottom of, a waterway, which would also speak to how old they would be, or if it's just random chance where they're placed all over. Yeah, I don't know. It's really interesting to sort of picture how
they're tied so heavily
like
into the Fae. They're tied so heavily into the Fae that it makes you think that they have to be portals. That these are like guideposts that you can travel through and then go from one place to another, go into the Fae, or, if you get into Fae Reenial, you can, they say Fae Reenial's a place that leads to every other place, that all roads, Fae Reenial leads to all roads, so that if you're in Fae Reenial, you can exit, I could see in Fae Reenial there's a bunch of doorposts, and that each one leads to a different gravestone in their world.
Yeah, it seems like it's the nexus of that that transportation device. It's like Kansas City.
Yeah,
it's the gateway.
That's exactly that's exactly how I picture Fae Reenial. I think of Kansas City.
And get some ribs.
Exactly the same way.
Some good barbecue.
Got the big archway, which is basically a portal.
That's St. Louis. That's not Kansas City.
Same thing.
It's not the same thing. But
same country.
I'm really I'm very much interested to see what Rothfuss does with the Fae, and if we get to see it sort of fleshed out in a more concise and sort of tangible way. Because as of now, it's hazy as shit. It's interesting because that idea of you go far enough and it's day again, right? You just walk for a certain period and it's day again. I like the idea of how it is.
Like it doesn't shift. Like it's not like if you stayed in one place, the sky never changes. The only way to go from lighter to darker is to go to a different place.
Yeah, it's interesting.
But yeah, we're definitely gonna get more on the Fae because he's gonna meet Bast, and they'll spend some time together in the Fae.
You mean his shade?
Yeah. Yeah, that was. I can't even remember what episode. That was a long time ago. Where Fitz guessed that Bast is a cloak.
As a cloak, it was right at the end.
Which would make me really hate
too.
Bast. It changed my entire perspective on Bast. He'd be a fucking giant nerd.
Yeah, he's not even as cool as Grey Dalcenti is literally a duster.
Yeah. They're all. That's how the book's gonna end. They're all gonna be articles of clothing. It's just some guy. It zooms out and it's just some guy in his mom's basement getting dressed every day.
It's just a big wardrobe.
Yeah,
it's like a guy who's the. I'm trying to think of the person that does the wardrobe for like theater. It's just a dude with a room with a bunch of costumes. It's like Edith Head or something. Just a wardrobe dude. That'd be really strange.
Mad at each other. All the angst between Ambrose and Kvothe is this guy constantly switches back and forth between,
oh man!
So
it's literally
fucking flamboyant outfit.
It's just some dude's imagination. He's just acting these things out.
Yeah.
What a whack! God, that'd be really funny on a couple levels. It would tell us like Rothfuss is really into clothes.
Yeah.
Like, wow, you're into clothes? You weave this whole thing for this?
Rothfuss can be listening to this and being like, I'm into clothes. You guys are the ones making this fucking whole book about clothes. All you guys talk about is clothes. It's like, there's not one word about a duster in these books. How many times you guys mention dusters and fingerless gloves? That's all you talk about.
It's natural. It's natural if you're going to throw so many cloaks in here. What do you expect to happen?
Well, I mean, and it's, it's hidden in the text. Just because he subconsciously hid all this stuff in there and he doesn't realize he wrote about a bunch of clothes. Can't help it that we were able to pick up what he can't.
Yeah, I was going to say, man, he's got to expect there's a lot more to Grey Dalsenti. I mean, there's just naturally going to feed into all this.
Yeah, I cannot wait until we get a scene with Grey Dalsenti calling Cinder Frederick.
Or a little Flippy. Hey, Flippy.
Hey, Freddy Flip.
Old Freddy Flippy Fred.
Oh, man. So then we're, as far as, as another aspect of the house being made of greystones, I think that could be a partial reason how the Chandrian found out, because it doesn't seem like just finding a pot or talking about a vase or whatever it is. It doesn't seem like that would be in itself something that would signal the Chandrian, because that little girl describes what's on the vase to Kavoth and she writes it out. She makes a drawing of it. That doesn't, send the Chandrian after Kavoth or her. So it could be that when they went into a room, because it was in a like a locked off room, that when they opened this room and they took the Greystones and built their house out of it by disturbing this burial site, that is what signaled the Chandrian.
That's
my guess.
That seems more tangible. It seems a little bit odd because we've been led to believe that saying their names, and we know, I mean, dude, the beginning of the book, and it's repeated so many times, there's power in names. So we know there's a lot to names, and speaking the names of things and controlling the names of things, it creates shockwaves, and that would act as that beacon that we've talked about that would attract them. However, it seems odd to me, I was going to jump to just say, it seems odd to me that just writing it would have the same effect, especially when they do that in the Adem, right? They basically have the names written, and you can say it once, but no, I'm sorry, they have it, it seems like it by memory, rather than having it written. However,
they just will only speak it once, and then a long time has to pass.
Well, however, though, there is also the power in Ilish knots, and I know it's kind of a leap, but there could be there could be, I guess, a power in writing it. I don't know. I don't know. It seems a little bit much if you're just going to say, like, every time you utter anything that's about them, you're creating this beacon. Although, if that was the case, then why is the pot even there? You can destroy a pot. It's one thing destroying, like, you can't destroy Cinder, or you have to lock something behind these doors, but you can destroy a freaking pot, right?
It would make so much more sense. Like, okay, the names I get because of the power of names. I get how that would be a beacon, saying their true names. I get that from how powerful names are. Greystones also seem to serve a very significant, powerful beacon quality to them. They're described in his dream. Arladin calls them like loading stones or draw stones, or in the poem, one of the two or both, they're described as kind of draw stones, like they draw things to it, and you're drawn into the Fae or out of the Fae. And so, like, I could see where moving Greystones, opening a Greystone door and discovering this vase that is behind there, that would, the disturbance of the Greystones could be a beacon or a signal to, the Chandrian or other groups or things along those lines. That would, because that also too, like, if the patron is Braden, it could be that when they disturbed all this stuff, not only did it alert the Chandrian, but it alerted other groups, so that someone like Braden was there to watch what happened because he was prepared for it. And so someone like who it sounds like Braden possibly travels through Greystones When he talks about he likes to travel a lot, they also talk about him doing pagan rituals by his house. So it could be that this guy is traveling through gravestones, and so the reason he was tipped off is because he felt the disturbance of this burial site, this Barrow, and the disturbance of these gravestones, and so that signaled him. And then he went there, and he's knew that the Chandrian were going to be there, that the Chandrian would be coming for him.
Yeah, I can see that. That it's a disturbance in the force, and anyone that's tapped into it can feel it, and they know it, or they're in tune with it. And I get a vibe like that from Ari and Elodin with the sleeping mind type of gesturing things, right? And like seeing the wind and stuff like that. Yeah,
and how they could feel the disturbance in the air when they go into that room that Elodin was locked in there. And he's like, most people don't notice it, and but Kavoth does. And so there seems to be some kind of some kind of ability to be in tune with things on a different level than most people. And so I could see a scenario where disturbing Greystones would send off a signal to people who are attuned to that are on that level, that they would be able to understand something happened, and that it's like ringing a bell, and they're able to go and track you down. So that would make more sense to me than it was just they found the vase, because then it was like, oh, okay, well, Kavoth has a paper with the stuff drawn. Why aren't they drawn to Kavoth?
Yeah.
What? And the only way you would have to make it that there's something specifically about the vase.
I was going to say,
that
also,
signals them.
If it was the existence of this vase, wouldn't they have gotten it by now? Wouldn't they have scooped it up themselves? I think what happened was they showed up because of the disturbance, and they're like, oh shit, look at this thing, and took the fucking vase.
Yeah, it could be that when the vase was in whatever room it was locked in, that cut it off from the world. And so the signal could be that it's not the Greystones being disturbed, it's that once the vase was pulled out of this room, that was like a beacon to everybody.
There seems to be...
It could be that as well.
There's
got to be something like that. There's some kind of beacon was sent off that attracted people to him.
Well, what you just described about what the vase could have been in, I feel like the Waystone Inn is like that, right? It's like it's cut off to a degree. There seems to be, there's like a I think that's part of why like Kavoth's powers are muted. We talked about like the second episode when he's with Chronicler. He has access to powers, or at least it seems, when he's not in there. And then when he's in there, it's like he becomes Coat, right? So it does seem like there's some muting of, like, almost like a gram, but a gram for a space or something, like not a gram in the sense that it protects you. I mean, in a sense, I would think perhaps it does, but to have that protection, it also seems like it mutes your own powers to a degree.
Yeah, I mean, it could be something along those lines. I mean, that and that could be an explanation why he was like, I chose the time and place specifically when I was going to fight the Skrael, so that he was outside of the Waystone Inn. So yeah, that's speculated on, that when he's in the Waystone Inn, that cuts him off from his abilities. I don't know, like if it like just mutes everything though, because that skin dancer finds him at the Waystone Inn and is clearly looking for him.
But it's also
he's clearly there for Kavoth.
But it's also like a stupid skin dancer, so maybe that's a side of it, is like it's not fully functional, and maybe that's the reason. I don't know. Yeah, it's interesting to tease out, because we don't really, again, is one of those things that we don't really know. We have little hints towards these things, and it's, again, another question. Are we going to get more about that in the third book?
Yeah.
Because it's kind of a small thing.
It's for certain, some kind of beacon was lit when they found this vase. I don't see that it's just the vase itself. Like, it's not just what was on the vase, because Kavoth has that drawing, and that's not, attracting the Chandrian. So it's got to be something more, that there's something specific about this vase that makes the vase like a beacon, or the disturbance of the Greystones was like a beacon. Something along those lines, I think, is the more likely scenario on what attracted the Chandrian. And also, if her patron is not Cinder, is not one of the Chandrian, it could also be the same thing attracted Braden, or whoever her patron is, to there. So that there's got to be some kind of beacon that was lit.
Yeah, I mean
it's tough to say exactly what it is.
Yeah, it feels that way. I mean, all of that makes sense, especially considering if Braden, if there's another side that's being pulled in as well, it sort of hints at much more, which makes it more interesting. So every time it's more, well, that could be more interesting. I think that's probably the route Rothfuss would be going.
Yeah.
But shit, who knows?
Then as he starts examining the house, like he runs up on, or he puts his hands on the windowsill, and the wood kind of like flakes away. And this is where, like, in his mind, he starts like, man, I'm missing something. And he's just thinking, like, why would they have got such cheap, shitty wood? This fucking nice house with all this money. Why would they skimp on this wood? And what's not clicking with him is that it's one of the Chandrian signs. That's what's like eating at him. Like he's reaching for that. That shows you how distant of memory what happened to his family was. That is not immediately drawn out. Like he knows the blue flame because that's what's in all the storybooks. But like the wood rotting in his hand does not immediately click with him that this is a Chandrian sign. So he feels that, and then he just starts thinking about, like, what the fuck am I missing? And he wants to go into the house, and she's like, "No, dude, what are you talking about?"
Yeah, it's interesting because he's like, and they further emphasize it because it's a couple things. It's like, it's a big expensive house, but yet this little cheap doorway. Like, why would they skimp on that? Especially of anything. I mean, any house, the door is the thickest. Like, interior doors are cheap. But the door to get into the house, that's the heaviest door you're going to have. So that just, it wouldn't make sense. But then he goes as far as saying, the fire wasn't really that bad. And she's like, not that bad. The place is a husk. But he's like, well, the roof isn't burned, except right by the chimney. So the fire didn't really do that much damage when you look at it. The place is a husk, and he's still not, as you said, he's still kind of not piecing fully together, the fact that it's Uznea or whoever.
I like how when they're standing there and, he's like got all this stuff, and like he takes a piece of what do you call them? The roof tile, basically, or something like that. Shingle.
Shingle, yeah.
He takes one of the shingles and lights it on fire with sympathy, and she's like, that's not something you see every day. And it's just like, he does it multiple times where he's just like, does these little simple magic, and it to him, it is just nothing. It's just like fucking flicking a lighter. But everybody else is like, holy shit, this guy fucking knows he's a fucking wizard.
Yeah.
Everybody else's reaction is, their reactions are usually more muted than, like, if someone did that in front of me, I'd fucking be fucking freaking out.
Yeah.
Or I'd probably, no, I take it back. I'd probably think that it was a magic trick. But if it wasn't a magic trick, and I knew it wasn't a magic trick, and they just lit something on fire, it'd be like, what the fuck?
Yeah.
Get away from me.
Yeah, there's a few times that he's done that, and it's like, he just doesn't think about it because it's so instinctive.
He's
he's so accustomed to doing it.
At Daydan, when Daydan's talking shit to him, like, look at you, you don't know how to fucking start a fire. Look at that wood pile. You're not even fucking stacking it right. Here, move out of the way, young kid. Let me show you how it's done. He's like, man, who the fuck do you think I am? He's like, watch this, bitch. Fucking scares the shit out of him after that too.
Yeah, that whole back and forth, great. Daydan's annoying as shit. It's interesting when they go to sort of coming up here. She says, she had her lyre, And he's like, oh, you play lyre. And then he's like, yeah, you with your voice and, your capability and the practicality, you should be playing a half harp. And she's like, oh, I didn't pick it, but, I'll bring that up to him next time. And it's kind of cool because next time he sees her, or at least a while from here, she ends up playing harp. So she took his advice.
Yeah, and Master Ash gave her a lyre, because he's a liar.
Nice. Do we know he's a liar? I mean, technically.
I mean, he's clearly hiding his identity, and so sending people up to her to try to needle information out of her. He's definitely
he's a conniving son of a bitch, that's for sure.
Yeah, he's playing that beautiful game.
That beautiful game. It does make so much sense, man, because there is so much suspicion around him, and it's so strategic, right? I mean, it just locks in terms of like who else has this much strategy. I mean, that's his whole character is strategy.
I hope it's Brayden, just because I think in my mind you could make the story so much more interesting.
Yeah.
With Brayden as a major player than if he's not a major player.
Yeah.
And like him being a foil for Kvothe and fucking up his relationship with Denna is way more interesting.
Well,
like the betrayal that Kvothe would find
out
of it and that kind of shit. Whereas if it's just Cinder, then it's just like, it's the good versus bad.
There's so much more irony, and it's so much more interesting, and it ties in so much better in terms of layering of irony because they've done this. They've strategically gone back and forth. He's told him like kind of subtly and then not so subtly, like, dude, you can't trust anybody, bro. Like you don't know what anybody's really up to, and he's coaching him along, through this.
Yeah, and building him up as he's also, toying with him, toying with his, his fucking most valuable prized possession, and, he values Denna above everything other than getting revenge on the Chandrian. And this guy would be teaching him how to play a beautiful game as he's manipulating the shit out of him and Denna would be much more interesting a story. And the depths of the emotions that Kvothe would have to go through if he found out Brayden was her patron is much greater than just it'd be like if he found out Ambrose was Denna's patron. It wouldn't be like this roller coaster of emotions type of event. It would be like, oh man, did I hate that guy before?
Yeah.
He just took it to a whole nother level of
hatred.
Like, it would just ramp up the hatred. It wouldn't like be.
Yeah, it'd be like, I hate this dude. Now I really hate this dude. And I still hate, it all just keeps going in the same direction. With Brayden,
it just makes the enemy more evil. And
with Brayden also
attack of him more retribution oriented.
Well, and he's Mr. Strategy, and one of the best strategies we have from film, keep your enemies close or keep your friends closer, right? I'm trying to say it and I fucked it up.
Keep your friends close and keep your enemies closer.
Enemies closer, yeah. I fucking George W. Bush that shit.
Yeah.
But yeah, man. I mean, it's it is definitely. I mean, it just makes so much more fucking sense, man. It makes so much more fucking sense. Yeah, that's fucking one of the most classic things ever. Can't fool me. I just fooled myself while I said
it. Hilarious moments. But then the big part that kind of clicks everything in his mind for him, and that this is what kind of sends everything reeling, where they realize it is the Chandrian, is he goes, I made my way past the charred windmill to the iron hand pump. I grabbed the handle, leaned my weight against it, and staggered as it snapped off at the base. I stared at the broken pump handle. It was rusted through to the center, crumbling away in gritty sheets of red rust. In a sudden flash, I remembered coming back to find my troop killed that evening so many years ago. I remembered reaching out a hand to steady myself and finding a strong iron bands on a wagon's wheel rusted away. I remember the thick, solid wood falling to pieces when I touched it. Kavoth. Denna's face was close to mine, her expression concerned. Are you all right? Telu Black, and sit down before you fall. Are you hurt? And he's like, I held the rusted through pump handle up for Denna to see. She frowned at it. That pump was new. The father was bragging about how much it cost him to get a well set up here and at the top of the hill. He kept saying that no daughter of his would have to carry buckets uphill 3 times a day. What do you think happened here, truthfully? And so, once he touched that rusted handle on that's when everything snaps into place, and the big revelation for him, and a revelation for us, because he doesn't say this beforehand, is he began, as the years went on, he began to doubt whether what happened actually happened. Is that some fantasy that he made up as a kid to rationalize what happened to his parents?
I think that's actually,
now he knows that's what happened to him.
I think
it was true.
I think that's actually great that Rothfuss would suggest that, because of course eventually he would do that. It's years past. He's gone through so much since then. That, I mean, right after it happens, he goes into a trance-like state. You know, he lives in a freaking the woods for a while, does nothing but play songs, barely eats. I mean, like, so it would make sense that eventually he'd be like, man, did that, you know, it would get to the point where it's like, look, no one's going to believe me. I can't bring this up to anyone. I'm not finding any evidence ever since then of any of this. And, you know, you would start to doubt it. It would make sense. Or you would just think maybe he hallucinated. You know, who knows? In his own mind, obviously. We don't think
especially
that,
he's like he's intelligent, he's self-reflective. So you know, if you're an intelligent person, you would know, especially like working in the Medica and around people that are going to hospitals and stuff. You would understand that traumatic events can be seen through a prism that's not what that gives you a misguided view of what happened. You interpret it. Your brain takes over. Like if you ask three people that go through a traumatic event, they usually they'll give you 3 different stories, because their mind is takes over, and they're trying to rationalize things and put everything into an order that will be will make sense to their mind, and to give them more comfort and more explanation to it. So they start filling in gaps. And so it would make sense that Kavoth would start questioning, is that what actually happened? Maybe my mind is playing tricks on me. And so, but then once he sees all the same fucking signs at this farm, that these people were killed, and not only were they killed, they didn't get killed with magic or anything. It sounds like the Chandrian don't use magic, or they're not using magic to kill these people, at least.
It's like
they're
swords.
just fucking straight up going swords and just cut through everybody.
It's the same. It was the same as, what they did to his troop, right?
Yeah.
They cut everybody up. They get in close and slice everybody up.
Yeah, it's almost the same scene. And I'm sure if like he stumbled upon it with all the bodies there and there's blue flame and shit, yeah, it probably all slides into place immediately.
Yeah.
But without the blue flames and all that, it's not locking in until he touches a few number of different things, and then it all slides into place. Oh shit, this is exactly what happened to my family.
Yeah, I mean, and it's great because again, we get to do, it's like a little detective work, right? And it's also important for us to see those signs again and to hear them again, and then to reiterate, because we end up piecing these together. But just reading through the books, I mean, it makes it more real. We need reassurance at some points, especially, I mean, obviously Kavoth does, because the rest of the world's basically against him in trying to treat this as reality. Eventually gets validation from the highest of minds, which is really, really a cool thing to put that through for Rothfuss, where it's, the mayor and, some of the biggest, Loden, some of the biggest minds at the university, the biggest minds that we come across in the world, they believe in what Chandrian is and the reality of it, while all the, plain folk, they think it's, a joke.
He also, he missed his opportunity, because when they start talking it through and Denna agrees with him that it is the Chandrian, that was his fucking opportunity to fucking tell her what happened.
Yeah.
when she's like, she doesn't know why he's there, and then they fucking go and they're like, she's like, man, I hate to say it, but yeah, I do believe it was the Chandrian. And that would have been his opportunity to tell her what happened to his family, and she would have accepted it. And by letting that go by, the longer that time goes, the more her mind will have an opportunity to rationalize what she saw at the Mauthen Farm and to make excuses where, nah, maybe it's not really the Chandrian. Maybe it was just what I was feeling in that moment. But once she has some distance from it, I'm sure her feelings of what happened at the Mauthen Farm, she's not thinking, is a high probability that she's not thinking it's the Chandrian anymore. Happens all the time. Like you can convince people of something in a moment, but then once they have time to step away, they will go back to the comfortable explanation.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. That's exactly how people are. But it's interesting you said that because it happens twice here where she's just like, she's even reluctant to say it. She's like, it sounds strange, but I think it was them. It sounds like something out of a story, so I don't want to believe it, but I do. And then she's looking to him for like, are you with me? Like, am I fucking nuts? Do you feel crazy? Like, and yeah, he kind of, this was an opportunity, but again, he's not letting it's not this easily will he let it out. But yeah, things could have been very much different if he had.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, it's a huge blown opportunity. The guy, he didn't even think about it either. It didn't even, occur to him to relate the story. It's just he's not gonna fucking talk about it. I mean, I hope he talks about it in the third book with someone. He has to. To me, like the fact that he's told this story to Chronicler and Bass, to me,
it's
like
interesting.
Talking about signifies that he's told someone.
Well, and he mentions it. He mentions repeatedly, I thought about telling somebody. He doesn't say it here, but he tends to say it when it's the practical answer to a situation or to like the wise to a question, but it's not like emotionally driven. Like this would have been emotionally driven.
Yeah.
But like you said, he doesn't think that way. He's in his mind. He's like, wow.
Well, it would have, like when she's like, okay, so, I hate to say it, it's the Chandrian. Then this would have been the perfect time. He's like, I think it's the Chandrian too. I've seen the Chandrian. They murdered my family. This is exactly what happened. And he would have had a story that resembles exactly what she is seeing as well, and she believes. So it's like, there was not a more perfect time for him to tell the story in these first two books, and this is one of those moments where he doesn't bring it up. But usually when he thinks about, like, I almost thought about telling him, it's always because he needs them to believe something or to understand something, and she already believes it and understands it. So there's not, he's not in that position where he's like, okay, now I got to tell her so that she'll understand. She already believes. She's already saying she thinks it's the Chandrian. So, that's the massive difference between this moment and all the others. But the fact that she does already believe it also is why it would have been the most opportune time to fucking tell it. Because she's already open to the idea that the Chandrian exists at this point.
Yeah. Most people would have.
Yeah, he fucked up. He fucked it up.
Most people would have heard him. Yeah, it's interesting. And he even talks, what he talks about is, I go looking for you and I can't find you. So the idea that I would find what I was looking for here, I did not expect this to happen. And then, he goes on about, when he was a child and he chased a rainbow for an hour, got lost in the woods, all that stuff. So it's interesting because he talks about as a child, talks about his parents. I remember reading this and thinking he was going to. He was going to say it, and then he doesn't. Yeah.
Nah, he's got that shit locked up tight. I mean, this is a perfect example of how tight he's got it locked up, because there's no better opportunity for him to start talking. But he doesn't. And then they decide to go out looking for Master Ash, and Denna goes and does a little skinny dipping in the pool, and Kavoth, like a gentleman, fucking, stays away, doesn't go and peek a look and get some pegs in the next chapter.
Yeah, I kind of he does something here that we see happen a few times where he's like, I'm not going to tell you what she's saying. I mean, he did say it's one verse of "Come Wash." Nice title. A verse I'd never heard before, which I expect she might have made it up. I will not repeat it here as she's saying it to me, not to you. And since this is not the story of two young lovers meeting by the river, it has no particular place here, and I will keep it to myself. Is it kind of one of those interesting things where it becomes, it's like Rothfuss and Coat and Kavoth all saying like, this is not the typical story.
This is not a love story.
Yeah.
This is not the story of me and Denna living happily ever after. Obviously, that is in your face with the fact that he's at the bar with Bast. He's not at the bar with Denna. So it's in your face that this is not going to be Kavoth and Denna lived happily ever after. We're not getting that fucking story. And yeah, he's letting the reader, the going meta into the book where he's letting the people who are going to read his story, he's letting them know up front, like we know up front, that this ain't that story, man. This is not the story of two lovers uniting.
Yeah, it's a very complicated, complex little love story because it never comes to fruition, but it's just so much like, back and forth and get close and then pull back, and yeah, it's fucking
I envision that at some point there is a physical connection between them. It seems like for it to end without any kind of physical connection, it would seem weird because of how tightly wrapped she is, and like how when Chronicler mentions her name, that fucking bottle breaks in the bar.
Yeah.
And so like he's so tightly wound about her still after all these years, for it to be someone that he never hooked up with and never had that opportunity where it looked like, okay, now we are going to have that happy ending.
I think that man. I think
he's got to at least get one happy ending.
I think the fact that he
happy
doesn't
ending to be pulled away from him to have any kind of impact.
I think the fact that he doesn't is why it has the impact, because it was that nut he never cracked.
Yeah,
that's what it is. This whole time he was like, "Man, I've been waiting. I've been in the friend zone for all this time. I've been waiting this out."
Worst case of blue balls. That's why he's lost all his powers.
But I don't know. It does feel like, well, okay. So what if they hook up and it's just extraordinarily disappointing for the two of them?
Yeah,
right?
That's the ending. Like, that's not what I was. We just are not. We don't mesh well at all.
We are not compatible at all. We are on all these other levels, but in this case, this isn't going to work.
Like,
so they kind of both
not on the same rhythm. Like, I don't know what the fuck that was, but that did not work.
They kind of both just look at each other, shake their heads, and then just put their clothes back on and walk away. I'm like, all right, well, great. Peace out.
Like, Kavoth does all these moves and everything. He's teaching her all the shit Florian has done, and she's like, "Is this your first time?"
Let me show you where it goes.
She's like, "I don't think you've ever done this before. Let me teach you something." It's like, "Man, I learned from Florian." Like, yeah, sure you did. Well, we could throw that story out the window. Now I know that's bullshit. You clearly don't know what you're doing. Shoots his ego down.
There was one part that I thought was kind of cool, where Rothfuss lays the groundwork ahead of time, where he briefly shows her, well, I guess we already got this with him living in the woods before, but the little he knows of woodcraft and how to see where prints are, how to see where someone came through. We get that with, when he goes with Martin and he learns he doesn't know shit about tracking compared to Martin, but he seems like the expert here.
Yeah. Yeah, it's always kind of interesting too, like when you see Kavoth like going through something that he understands. Like this was a great example where it's like, all right, I'm teaching her how to track things in the woods, and you're thinking like man, this guy knows how to do everything. Yeah. And like he's like, hey, we're not able to do it well, but you're teaching someone how to track, and then you find out like, oh, he didn't know what the fuck he was doing. Like, yeah,
you don't know it until like many chapters later, but yeah.
He's basically like, let me teach you math, and like he knows 2 + 2 = 4. And it was like, well, yeah, that's it. Wow. That's it. I know how to fucking count everything on my fingers. I can count on my fingers, but that's as far as my mathematical knowledge goes.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I always think of when I read that part is like, yeah, you don't know what you're fucking doing. You're full of shit trying to teach her.
Well, you don't know.
Blind leading the blind.
You don't know the first time. The first time you're like, no. Oh, okay. Well, that works. And then you're like, oh, yeah, so he kind of knows. And I remember like reading that and I'm also like, shit, I wish I knew how to do that. Yeah. And then you get to where it's with Martin, you're like, well, shit, he didn't know what he's talking about either.
Yeah. He's fucking full of shit.
Just fake it till you make it, right?
Yeah. All right, so chapter 73 is titled Pegs. In this chapter, Denna and Kavoth, they come across a pig farmer, Shep, or Shem. I can't remember what it was exactly, but Shep or Shem, and they proceed to prod him for every bit of information they can get on what happened at the farm, and then they proceed to head back to the farm so that Kavoth can get a better look once he learns that the location of the place is called Barrow Hill instead of Barrow Rill.
His name is Skoiven Schimmelfelpengfeneg.
Shem. Yeah, so Shem.
Yeah, it's they do it. He does a tremendous job with this accent here because it's kind of, I don't know what this is. It's like it reminds me of Snatch. You remember Brad Pitt and Snatch?
Yeah.
Yeah, it kind of reminds me of that I don't know what you call that.
Well, especially the audible, the guy sounds like he's speaking Irish, with an Irish accent.
Yeah, I guess that's, yeah. Oi. Yeah. But, it's an enjoyable chapter with this dude.
Yeah, there's a lot of good stuff. I like when the pig comes up and he thinks it's a boar and he's standing there. Yeah. Like talking about like he's got his hand out like a wrestler with his fucking little dull fucking knife that can barely cut an apple. He's standing there ready to protect her. She's like, no, you looked fucking brave. It's nice.
Yeah, he gets all in like the stance, and he's like, "Don't run, it'll chase you. They're not good swimmers." Gives her all these instructions. She's like, "Yeah, he looks more curious than angry." Like, but he's dead serious, and rightfully so. He feels like an idiot. So, yeah.
But it seems like he did look cool. One of the moments where he does really look cool and brave.
Well, she does say, with the exception of some rather irritating posturing in bars. I don't know if I've ever had anyone actually leap to my defense before. So,
I looked ridiculous, crazy as a loading on his worst day. That's pretty good luck.
Yeah. Yeah, she said you looked fierce, like a wolf with all its hackles up. Or a fox. You're too red for a wolf. Oh yeah, so this is one of the parts that I like so much about Denna, where she's like, "Yeah, but you're holding your knife wrong." So she's like, "If you actually stabbed anyone, the grip would slip. You'd cut your own thumb. Like, again, amateur hour over here.
Yeah,
you don't know how to fight. So the chick you're protecting is going to teach you. Pretty great."
Yeah, that stuff's great. And she's like, he's like, "Where'd you learn how to do all this stuff?" Guys trying to steal my virtue by teaching me how to protect my virtue. And when she's teaching him, he's like, you trying to steal my virtue?
Yeah.
It's a good back and forth. And you see Denna's not fucking fooling, like, cause when she runs into that dude trying to rape that girl in Severin, she knows how to fucking handle herself. She fucking takes that knife and like fucking sticks it right up against that dude's balls, and it's like, dude, I will slice your fucking nuts off, man.
I love the a woman who goes around wearing a knife is obviously looking for trouble. She reaches deep into her pocket and brings out a long, slender piece of metal. However, a woman who carries a knife is ready for trouble. Generally speaking, it's easy to appear harmless. It's less trouble all around. Yeah, dude, that's fucking super attractive.
Yeah, she's got a gangster side. That's what I like about Denna and Devi. They both have a kind of a some rough edges, some darkness to them that makes them much more interesting than. And it's also why, like, I don't understand what some people don't like about Denna. I get the frustration with her and Kavoth and their relationship. I get that, but the other aspects of her, she's independent. She's got some rough edges. She's obviously had a troubled past, but she's not letting that, bring her down. She's looking to build up in this world. She's trying, she's getting with this patron, but it's not just that she wants this patron to take care of her. She's like, this dude can teach me things that I need to learn. She's got goals. She's got ambitions. She's smart. She's witty. She's charismatic. She can protect herself. She's not some weak girl that needs some dude to protect her. She could fucking take care of herself. Like what the fuck do you want in a girl character? Like, that girl's pretty fucking badass.
It seems to me like she did not choose to have to be independent, but now she does choose to be independent. Or she chooses to maintain her independence after being thrust upon her. Is what the way it reads to me.
It could be that they tried, she was in a family that was like, say someone was trying to marry her off to somebody, and like she's like, no, fuck that. She was already independent, and she just completely severed any kind of fallback position that she would have had. She sacrificed comfort to be independent and had to live in a rough life because of the sacrifice she made to keep her independence.
Yeah, she does definitely seem like the character that if she doesn't seem like the type of person that would go back with her tail between her legs. No, she'll just make it work. She'll figure it out, and that's what she does continuously. She's constantly just figuring it out. And yeah, that scene with the girl in the alley, I mean, that is hugely telling and building out for Denna, because that's where we get like the real kind of dirt about her, and like the real trouble that she's had to go through just by her telling this girl what she's going to have to go through because she's lived it.
Yeah, she's super interesting. I mean, obviously we talk about her all the time, but she's a super interesting character for a girl. There's not a lot of girls that are like her in stories that I read. I mean, she's got a lot of qualities that you would find in characters that are the heroic men, that have, the scarred and the troubled hero man, like those type of guys that are real gruff and that kind of shit. But she's got a lot of those qualities, but in a woman who is delicate, and she's attractive, and she's feminine,
and understands how to.
It's very interesting dynamic.
Well, and she seems to understand how to wield both sides.
Yeah,
right. She knows how to leverage being delicate or graceful or dynamic, being that person filling a role. She seems to understand how to be able to do those things, which makes her.
Yeah, she does clever. It perfectly. Like right in this situation when fucking low pigs. When Shem comes up on her and he introduces Denna, and he's like, my cousin, she's real shy. You probably won't hear a word out of her. And she immediately takes the role of being this bashful fucking girl who, she looks up at him and then immediately, darts her eyes away. She starts playing that role immediately without missing a beat. She's very, very adept at adjusting her personality and her demeanor to fit the scene that she's in to be able to get by.
Yeah, this is a great moment for realizing just how great Denna and Kavoth could have paired up, to run.
Yeah, they would have fucking
game
ran
on people.
Fucking people.
Yeah, I mean, just her following his lead, he does a fantastic job because it's funny too because he talks in this way and it's difficult to read this and not think this guy's backwater or whatever, however you want to put it. And it's funny because he's like, someone that actually speaks proper. when it's like no one else in the books speak this way at all. But he, in his mind, speaks proper. And yeah, Kavoth's like, he just kind of throws some little things back at him that, really endears him to Kavoth and Denna by association. And yeah, Denna's tremendous. I mean, she falls right in line. I kind of like how Kavoth even still, he has his ear, which has the highest of standards. He's like, her accent wasn't perfect.
Yeah,
it was just close enough.
Yeah. And then the next time he was like, man, then she tightened it up. And she's like, her O's were much better that time.
Yeah.
She fucking tightened it up real quick too.
Yeah.
I like to when they start. This is also when they get Shim talking and he brings up the Mauthen Farm. He's got that immediate distaste for him. He's like, they ain't no better than they should be, and gives an impression of them as they got their fucking nose up, think they're fucking better than everybody. He's like, they're no better than they should be. And then he talks about like these fucking morons. They found a fucking a burial ground. What do? They keep fucking digging. They start pulling up the fucking stones. And he's like, man, I had the more sense that I got more sense that my mom taught me to not fuck around at Barrow Hill. He's like, these idiots didn't listen, and so he was right.
Yeah.
The bumpkin is 100% right in this scenario where he's like, these fucking fools, and that this Mauthen family is like, this superstitious nonsense. Of course, those are perfectly good stones. We'll use those. And look at that nice fucking vase. This is a family heirloom that we can have. And Shem over here, it would be viewed as like the superstitious bumpkin fucking trailer park moron who's 100% right.
Yeah.
Fucking the Mauthen Farm got fucking wiped out because they didn't have that fucking sense.
Well, not only is this dude, pulling these things up and keeping them, he's waiting until a wedding party all shows up, all people probably that are loved ones and family and friends, to then unveil this thing on them and then get everybody murdered. Yeah. So, nice job. Good going there, guy.
Yeah. And you could just picture the Mauthen Farm, like if they heard about Shem and his clan, they would just like their view of them would be very similar to Arladin's view when Abinthy is like, I don't want you guys to think I'm some superstitious fool. And they're like, no. And he's like, don't fucking patronize me.
Yeah.
And he's like, we thought you were an educated man, not one of these superstitious idiots. And the superstitious idiots were the ones that are right in multiple scenarios. It's always these so-called morons, these stupid people, these uneducated, unsophisticated people that are trusting their gut and they're, letting that fear protect them. These people that think they're better than that, smarter than that, they're the ones that are getting fucking wiped out.
Yeah, it seems to be what I in particular like about it is it's a respect of tradition. It's a respect of history. Because I mean that happens in our world. Over time, every new idiot becomes arrogant. Like, I know better. They just assume they know better simply because they're living now and they have all the spoils of everybody that's lived before them. So they're just like, well,
Yeah.
I don't need to study. I don't need to read that stuff.
Yeah.
I know.
Yeah.
I'm here. Look at me. I'm still going. So
what's great is we get from Rothfuss, we get these two scenarios, like Abinthy thinking the superstitious people are idiots. The Mauthens more than likely think of people like Shem are morons because they're, they continue to, they build their house out of fucking Barrow stones. And then, and they, they're given fucking, finding like a burial tomb and giving gifts, wedding gifts out of it. And then you also have when, I think it's Arwill tells Kavoth the story of the ignorant edema, where this guy he's coming from the university, he's this well-educated man, and he's crossing this river on a ferry, and he's like, starts talking to the guy running the ferry, and he's like, have you read Teckham's blah, blah, blah? He's like, nah, I never heard of it. He's like, what? He's like, have you read this? And he's like, no. He's like, what are you doing? Your education is so important, blah, blah, blah. He's like, how could you not fucking be concerning yourself with your education? And then they're both turned off of each other. And this educated man is thinking this guy's an idiot. And then this guy's like, comes back to him. He's like, hey, the rain's coming, or the ship's not going to make it across the water. We're going to have to jump out and swim the rest of the way. And the educated man's like, I never learned how to swim. It's like, yeah, I guess my knowledge is more valuable in this situation, isn't it?
I guess all those
should have been learning how to fucking swim instead of reading all those books, you moron. Yeah. But like he it's funny that he does that so many different times in the books, where it's the dumb bumpkin guy versus the educated man, and it's the guy with the street smarts that is getting the leg up every time in those situations.
Yeah, it's super interesting. He does do that quite a bit, where he pits these cultures against one another. And even when someone like Kavoth, who seems very world wise and very adaptable and adept, goes into the Adem, all of a sudden he's a savage all over again. You know? So it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter how sophisticated you are, how world wise you are. As soon as you go into another area, it's all of a sudden you're the idiot. You got to start all over again. Yeah, it's pretty great, man. It's sort of injecting that humility, if you give a shit. if you are willing to be humbled. And we know you are, so that works well.
Very, very humble. Then when Shim starts talking about like seeing the blue fire, one of the parts I love about it, Kavoth starts needling him for the information.
Yeah.
Like, hey, quit fucking pulling my leg, quit trying to scare us. And Shim's like, Shim, really, blue flyer? I'm not some lying ruse spinning stories to scare you out, old Penny's boy. It's like plainly irritated. I love the fact that even like this bumpkin dude that's clearly like living in the mountains like by himself or in like a small clan, even they fucking hate the Rue. Like everybody fucking hates the Rue. It's fucking an amazing thing about the world that everybody fucking hates these people. And like the reality of the Rue is just so diametrically opposed to how everybody else sees them. It's just it's a crazy motif in the story.
Well, that's
like why? Like even these people, like they're off on their own in the middle of fucking nowhere, and we're better than the Rue.
Well, it's kind of what I was talking about earlier, where it's like the people in the highest of places seem to, believe in the Chandrian or respect the threat of the Chandrian, and those are the only individuals, it seems, are virtually the only individuals outside of stories that respect the Rue, right? And everybody else in all walks of life, and it makes sense to a degree, and we get the evidence of it with that group that just kills a bunch of Rue and then poses as the Rue. And it gives them a reason to go into towns and then, sleep with a bunch of maidens and steal stuff. And no wonder everybody hates the fucking Rue.
Yeah.
And then, of course, Mellowin has her own reasons, which aren't exactly related in the same way, but just keeps doubling down on, how. Yeah, it's so interesting because it is so diametrically.
Arledin R. Kelly'd her sister.
R. Kelly, shit. R. Kelly.
This guy fucking roped her in, fucking brought her into his cult.
Well, how was she super much younger than Arledin?
I don't know. It's more interesting that way.
Okay, yeah. And is there urination involved? Is that any part of it?
Yeah, of course there is urination involved.
Okay, all right.
Yeah, what do you think they're doing in that tent?
I guess that's a given, huh? Or at least you're insinuating that it is. No, I love...
nothing wrong. With a little bump in your eye.
Jesus Christ. I love how,
that's not even R. Kelly. Who is that? I don't even know who that is.
I don't know.
Or something is that R. Kelly?
Something terrible. I don't know. Boys to Men or something. Something of that vein in that era of time. Shit, why am I thinking? I can't believe you got me thinking about that. When you mentioned something that I was thinking of when you mentioned Shem here talking about the blue flame, and then kind of how it gets mentioned, and then it's funny because I've read this more than once, but then reading it again, I'm like, wait, yeah, that doesn't actually make sense. Why? So were the Chandrian there prior? Like that, this doesn't make sense. And then I realized, oh shit, it's the fucking Dracus. Then you start to slowly get into that. And I get excited every time I realize we're getting closer to that because the story is just so freaking great. But yeah, there's a nice Kavoth's ingenuity here is fantastic, and how he, like you said, where he's like, all right, well, if you're gonna start pulling our leg here, you don't have to tell your story or whatever. Getting him to tell the story, getting him to double down and go into more detail. It's just fucking great.
Yeah, and I also like that Denna was not impressed with it. And her reaction was like, I could have did it better.
Yeah, it's kind of like more. What's the phrase there? More
flies
with honey. Yeah. It was very much, very much in that vein.
I think she says that specifically. She's like, more flies with honey and all that. But yeah, she was very unimpressed with his manipulation skills. She's like, that wasn't very
subtle.
That wasn't terribly subtle.
Yeah. Just challenge him
and
just run.
Yeah. She's like, I could have got it out of him. I bet you could.
But
yeah, and I also too like when he's like, thought you didn't speak, Bumpkin. I've got a mimic here, she said with an indifferent shrug. I pick up things like that pretty quickly. Surprised the hell out of him. Why? I spat. Damn. It's gonna be a whole span before getting rid of that accent. Like a piece of gristle in my teeth. Like that aspect of it is like, it's like surprised the hell out of Moy.
There was a part where Shem. Oh yeah, 2 nights ago when I got up to glancing at Denna, attend to moi. How the fuck you say this? Attend to moi personals. I saw lights off to the north. So, again, one of the, might be a poop or a pee.
Yeah.
Trying to look out for those.
Too. That is another one of those subtle hints that they possibly have to take pees and poops in this world. I think we could probably solidify that maybe they don't have to take pees, but they at least sometime feel an urge, because Kavoth does feel an urge to pee at one time. That is clearly spelled out. Can't remember if there's any time where they talk about them urinating. Poops are still up in the air.
Well, one of them, he was going to do it just for the pleasure of it. So he was going to do his R. Kelly thing by the spinning tree, the razor blade tree or whatever.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was more of a...
Well, there he talks about he had the urge to...
That's what I mean.
To urinate. And then he was like... He's like, and then I suddenly relaxed as, whatever I brought back to them could be worse than pissing on their tree, their sacred tree.
Well, maybe the relaxing was he just maybe they can let it out of their pores. Maybe that's another option.
Yeah.
I mean, we don't know. I don't know why Rothfuss wouldn't write all these peas and poops in. I mean, I know he likes the mystery of it, but it's so vital,
It does make the story. It's one of the great mysteries of the story, and so it does add to it a lot. Gives us a lot to talk about and a lot to speculate on. So I get it in a sense, but if we don't hear someone dropping a deuce in book 3, or at least confirming that they don't have buttholes or something, I'm going to be very disappointed.
Yeah. I guess we haven't had any talk of sphincters, so yeah, we don't really know what's going on in that region, that department.
It's one of those mysteries. It's got to be resolved, or the book's going to have a huge hole.
Yeah, huge butthole. Huge gaping smelly hole. So I forget where we were.
Then after that they go back to the Mauthen Farm, and because he wants to check it out now that he knows it's called Barrow Hill. And then so he goes to her. He's like, "Look at the house. Now look at the bluff that's sticking out of the trees behind it." I pointed. "The rock around here is dark, and the stones of the house are gray." She finished. I nodded. She continued to look at me expectantly. "And that means what exactly?" "Like you said, they found barrow stones. There aren't any barrows around here," I said. "People build barrows in Ventus, where it's traditional, or in low, marshy places where you can't dig a grave. We're probably 500 miles away from a real barrow." I walked closer to the farmhouse. "Besides, you don't use stones to build barrows. Even if you did, you wouldn't use quarried finished stone like this. This was brought from a long way off." I ran a hand over the smooth gray stones of the wall. "Because someone wanted to build something that would last, something solid." I turned back to face Denna. "I think there's an old hill fort building here." Denna thought about it for a moment. "Why would they call it Barrow Hill if they weren't real barrows?" "Probably because folk around here haven't seen a real barrow, just heard about them in stories. When they find a hill with big mounds on it," I pointed out the oddly shaped hillocks, "Barrow Hill. But this is nowhere." She looked around aimlessly. "This is the outside edge of nowhere." "Now it is," I agreed. "But back when this was built," I gestured out to a break in the trees to the north of the burned farmhouse. "Come over here for a second. I want you to look at something else." So he points out you can look at 30 miles in any direction from here. And it's the only place the only place you would have a better view is on some place where there just wouldn't be anything, any way to really build anything on it. So they're like in the perfect spot if you wanted to kind of overlook this whole area. So it would make sense to have like a hill fort in this area.
Yeah, the higher ground and all that, and the viewpoint. Yeah, that makes sense. So,
and the fact that they talk about it's quarried stone, that also could throw a wrench in that the house is made of gray stones. It could just be quarried stone. But it also could be gray stones. I mean, we don't know for sure.
If it's a fort, I mean, does that tell us anything about, like, I don't know, the Black Adrazan Tor or anything like that? Like any of the battles that we hear about?
It could be. It could be that they are on the spot where, because of how many people were killed during the Battle of the Black Adrazan Tor, could be that this area and the university and all that is where this fight took place. And so the trouble I have with it, the reason I'm not sure that would be right, is that there was a vase buried in this hill, and it's depicting the Chandrian and the Amir, which happens after that, a few years after that, in fact.
Huh. Yeah.
So I don't know what this place is. It could be, like, one of the guesses is that this is where the 99 stories that the Adim tell where the Lethani was created. And they talk about, like, the guy was standing on a hill and he shot down at his student, or vice versa. Maybe the student was on the top of the hill. Can't remember who was on top, but one of them was on a hill. It could be that he was on top of the hill, and maybe the Adem at that point in time were in this location. That's where they started out, and then eventually, they made their way. Maybe they traveled through that Greystone door and ended up in, where they ended up, or maybe they just traveled across the land to get where they ended up. But it could be that. I don't know exactly. I don't have a good answer on where this fucking place is and what the significance of it is, but there has to be something significant, and there's not a lot of significant events from the past that it could be that we've heard about.
Yeah, maybe it's something we'll find out. I don't know. I mean,
you would think we got to hear more about what happened at the Mauthen Farm, what the fuck's up with the Greystones, and what the fuck is up with the vase. Like, what was there before? You would think we have to find this information out. I would be surprised if this is not revealed to us in book 3, but I don't have a good guess on what because I initially would think it was the Block of Drazator is one of the locations of where this battle was fought, but the part that throws me off on that is the fact that there's a vase or whatever with the Chandrian on it, because that's later.
Well, I mean, through all that time, I guess there could be there's other events that had happened in that area. I don't know. Yeah. It does definitely hint at something here.
But yeah, it's an interesting place, and obviously, I think that's one of the questions we're going to be looking for in book 3. If he doesn't answer what the fuck's up with that place, it's going to be weird. I think there's got to be some kind of explanation about what the fuck went, or maybe like in a future book if it's not relevant. I think there's more of a story there, and I think eventually we will hear a story about what the fuck was going on there, whether it's in this book or something else that he does down the line. I think we got to find out what the fuck was going on at Barrow Hill.
I was gonna say, if there isn't, then why have these stones?
Yeah,
why have this fort? Why do all of it?
It would be disappointing if if we finish the series and we don't even know what the fuck's up with Barrow Hill. Like, yeah, it's a cool section of chapters. I mean, the Dracus makes it fucking cool and all that kind of shit, but that's still a huge question that it raises. What the fuck's Barrow Hill? Like, what is that? Why was that buried there? What the fuck happened? Why was Denna there? Like, there's a lot of questions that are brought up in these chapters, and there's very little answer around them. It's all speculation. It's just guesses. There's not like clear evidence that is helps us solve what's going on in this situation. It's just a lot of guesses. But there's a lot of people that are making these guesses, so you would think that Rothfuss is going to give us an answer at some point.
Yeah, one would hope, right?
But then, moving on to the next chapter, we get chapter 74. It's titled Waystone. In this one, Kvothe and Denna, they make camp on the hill with a number of Greystones, and then they try to puzzle out the reason for the Chandrian attack, and then eventually, as they're camping out there, a Dracus comes upon them and sends them scurrying on top of one of the Greystone archways.
Yeah, that was pretty big to come to find out at the top of the hill. The only thing on the top of the hill was a handful of Greystones. 3 of the massive stones stacked together to form a huge arch, like a massive doorway, with the other 2 on their sides, as if lounging in the thick grass, found their presence comforting, like the unexpected company of old friends.
Yeah, there's got to be significance to that. Like, I mean, that's another aspect of it. It's not only just like what the fuck was buried there, what they build their house out of, what attracted the Chandrian, how exactly were the Chandrian attracted, why was Denna there, why was her patron there, who's her patron, and then also, what the fuck's up with that fucking Greystone doorway? It's just like, there's so much there.
Yeah.
Gotta get an answer.
There's obviously a lot of significance to this place. And it's not just all, well, this is where we were and this is where Kavoth is and the Dracus and all. This seems like, this looms large in the history of the world.
I like too, though, when, they start kind of fucking camping out and he starts making her dinner and everything and they're kind of relaxing. And then he tells her, I met a tinker on the road this morning and he tried to sell me a bottle of fruit wine. Wish I'd taken him up on the offer.
Yeah.
I love fruit wine, she said. Was it strawberry? I think it was, I admitted. Well, that's what you get for not listening to a tinker on the road.
Yeah.
She chided, her eyes drowsy. Clever boy like you has heard enough stories to know better. She sat up, suddenly pointing out over my shoulder look. But the fact that she chides him on that, and it's not only does the fruit wine come into play, but the rope is going to come into play later that he didn't take. And then it happens again the next time he meets the Chandrian, even after she's already fucking chided him for it. It's Kavoth he sees so much in the world, but then he still doesn't believe a lot of the things that he sees. He doesn't believe, he looks at them like it must be a coincidence, or like, okay, yeah, you can call the name of the wind, you can call the name of stone, but like really fire?
Yeah, it's
like,
funny, man.
Like these kind of things, like he no matter how much he learns, he's still like, he's a doubter. He doubts a lot of information that is thrust in his face constantly.
Well, it kind of reminds me of when he's sitting there with Loden, and Loden's like really trying to go into some really deep things, and he's just like, "Yeah, whatever, bro. See ya. I gotta get going here."
It's like, man, get a load of that guy. That guy's a fucking idiot. It's like, no, you're the fucking idiot.
You're ignoring.
You're fucking passing up these lessons, man.
Yeah. It's interesting too, especially for him, because he knows these things, and then in the moment, he ignores them. He talks about it as if, you always listen to a tinker. Tinker always know what they're doing. And then he's like, hey, you should take this. Hey, you should really take this. Yeah, I heard you the first time. I'm good. Like, yeah, it is great that, we have her, Denna pointing this out, because it does further emphasize, in case we would have missed it, that yes, he should have taken the fruit wine, and then come to find out also the rope, and then later with the wax for the boots and all that stuff.
There's so much information tied behind the tinkers that we know are accurate, and yet it is similar to the Chandrian, where you hear all these little rhymes about the Chandrian, where it's all accurate information, but everybody passes it off as fucking just nonsense. But there's just so much of the book where a lot of the accurate information, the shit that we know is true, is passed off by everybody else as just nonsense.
Yeah.
That is just like, funny little things you say, but you're not real.
Yeah, it's really funny, because every time someone does find out it's real, it's always the same reaction. Like, wait, that's really real? That really means something? Yeah, everybody's always really surprised.
It's like, how many times, dude? Like, fucking, like at some point, like, you gotta question what you know in this world, man.
Yeah. Maybe start to take the hint, bro.
But yeah, then, they see the blue lights off in the distance, and so this is another one where you get that one of the clues, I think, that leads me to believe that Cinder is not her patron, was like, he said your patron has a way of signaling you. I said slowly, I don't mean to pry, but it's nothing to do with Blue Flyer, she said with a low chuckle at my discomfiture. That would be altogether too sinister, even for him. Also
too freaking obvious.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, if he's signaling her, well, if he's using blue flame, he's signaling everyone. Anyone that can see.
But the fact that it's too sinister even for him, that doesn't make you think of Cinder. When you think of Cinder, you would think like it's hard to think of something that would be too sinister.
Yeah,
for Cinder.
Yeah, that's true.
And the fact that Denna is so in tune with the nature of people, and she can read people, she can see when they're lying to her. She's got a good sense of when she needs to get out of a situation, and those kind of things, or when people are trying to use her or trying to pin her down. She's got a good sense of the nature of people and what their true motivations are.
Yeah.
And even if she's wrong, she leans in the direction of being suspicious rather than being trusting. And so the fact that she would be like, that's too sinister for him, it does not seem like what Denna would describe as Cinder, unless Cinder is an amazing actor. He's just has an amazing ability to hide his true motivations.
I also feel like, since we're talking about it, I also feel like she's a little bit too intelligent and everything you just described, like world-wise or intuitive, to get pulled in with Cinder. I know he's diabolical to the largest degree and everything, but and maybe in a way, I guess if Cinder has decided he's interested in you, you don't have much of a choice. So I guess there could also be that. But yeah, it's kind of, it makes her a little bit less, in a way it makes her a little bit less intriguing, because she'd have to be a prisoner to Cinder rather than being taken in under, and being fooled. You know what I mean? Because if she's being fooled by an actor, and again, he could be super talented, it still makes her look kind of stupid, kind of ignorant at least.
It also makes the Chandrian seem weaker.
That they need. Yeah. That's a good point too. Yeah, because they seem also. It's not even just, it is weakness, because they're so powerful, the group of them, and they're able to move in and out of these situations, and they can do, it seems like, so much damage on their own. Why would they need a spy, or why would they need a...
Well, we need someone who can sing really well. Like, what? Get the fuck out of here. Like, what? Like, we're just, none of us are good singers. We don't have good voices. So we really need a Denna. Like, shut the fuck up. Like, what? Okay, well, if you're not good singers and you're the Chandrian, like, well, then you just don't fucking utilize that skill. Like, what the fuck would that be? Like, you need... I could see where they would position people to be like agents of chaos, use these evil guys just to kind of fuck shit up in the world and to fucking meddle in politics and that kind of stuff. But to like use Denna in this way, like to spy in the Mauthen Farm, to learn Yilish knots, to go to fucking Severin and to write a song and piece together the history of the chain. It's like, what is going on? Like, if that's the Chandrian doing this, like, you're just weakening them. You're just making them less interesting.
Maybe it's for the free food. They go into, every time they get hungry, they're like, all right, let's just dip in the Fay, hit one of them Jack in the Boxes. We got Denna with us, so we got the hookup.
Yeah. That's it. I did forget that she's a franchise owner of like 5 Jack in the Boxes.
Yeah, so she got the hookup, man.
That makes her way more powerful. Like,
I'm just waiting.
Wait until they find out fucking Ari's like a franchise owner of Burger King. They're fucking definitely getting Ari.
Ari feeds the Adem and the Amir. Yeah, she's feeding the Amir, and every time they dip out, like when they left the Mauthen Farm, it wasn't because they were done. It was like, I'm kind of hungry. A little bit hungry. Let's go. Let's. Well, I guess this time they had to pay because they didn't have Denna with them. So I don't know how they worked that one out. Somebody had to fork up some dough. But
yeah, well, that solves that mystery. Why Dinah's important. She's fucking handing out coupons fucking for Jack in the Box for the fucking Chandrian. So they can get their fucking tacos and cheeseburger and a combination. Mystery solved.
Yeah. So, all right. So, I'm just now thinking. So, the girl that saw the pot, she saw it like the day before the wedding, something like that.
Maybe not the day before, but she did see it before.
It was
the
one
wedding,
of the kids, one of the Mauthen kids, brought her in and was like, "Yeah, take a look at this." Right? Yeah, because I was just thinking because yeah, they killed everyone. They took the pot. We would assume, because no one found it, and killed everybody, and then it just came from the little girl's memory, right? Is what Kvothe ends up with, is the sketch.
Yeah, she has dreams about it too. She keeps having the same dream over and over again.
Oh shit, that's right.
Where it just keeps showing her one side, and that's how she, like, at first when she tells him about it, she kind of describes some things, but she doesn't have a clear memory of it. And then when she draws the picture of it, she just keeps having the same dream over and over again until she draws it. But she only dreams of one side.
Yeah, and she's like haunted.
Which basically one side equals like 1/3 of the vase. So the other 2/3 of the vase are not seen in her dream.
But she saw the other sides, right? Doesn't she describe it by memory?
She saw it. She saw it. She described some things from memory, but she can't describe the entire vase.
Yeah, I remember that much. Yeah, I do. And I also remember she's freaking terrified. She thinks she's going to be murdered. She thinks they're all coming after her.
Yeah, and Kvothe's perfectly willing to let her fucking spill the beans, get some information out of her. He's like,
well,
go ahead and tell me.
He does make her feel better, or at least, does his best to, he uses Daonica, right? And then gives her like a amulet, or what would look like an amulet.
Yeah, gives her a fake amulet that doesn't work, even though he's like seen that, if you even sing the wrong song about the Chandrian, they might show up and kill you. And he's like, tell me more. Tell me more information, little girl. I want to know everything. Don't care. Like, even when Dennis sings a song about them, he doesn't be like, hey, you might want to be careful about singing a song about these people. Like, they fucking massacred my whole family. He's just like, I don't like that song. I don't like the ending. I think that ending sucked.
I don't remember.
Not, hey, this could be dangerous.
When she sings the song, does she use any names?
Lanre, I mean, she uses like their calling names, not their, their names. But at this point, he doesn't know exactly, that it's names that drew the Chandrian. Later on, he realizes that, like when he's talking in the bar, he's like, it's not just their calling names. You got to say their true names. So he eventually acquires that information, and he kind of gets that from the Adim when he goes there. But at this point in the story, he and when Dennis sings her song, he does not fully know that it was his parents must have been singing their true names. That they must have found out their true names. This is something he pieces together later.
So he mentions...
So he should be warning these people not to talk about this shit. But he's like, nah, go ahead, keep telling me.
So he does mention Old King Ceylon? You know what I'm talking about?
No, you have to read it to me. I don't know that off my top.
They're talking about, they're pontificating what this was all about, Kvothe says the Chandrian heard about the pot.
She's like that old king that murdered a bunch of, people, to hide some information.
Oh, so they're equating, she's drawing a comparison between that and what the Chandrian did.
Yeah, she's using that as an example of this, that guy, he like, just like that guy slaughtered a bunch of people to bury information.
Yeah.
And he didn't let any survivors so that information could get out. The Chandrian could have been doing the same thing. Because Kvothe was like, they killed all these people so they could get the vase. And she's like, well, that doesn't make any sense. Why wouldn't they just wait until the next day?
Yeah.
And then they only have to kill the bride and the groom. And she's like, so maybe it's not just getting the vase, maybe it's eliminating any information about the vase so that nobody even knows about the vase. And so they had to kill anybody who had any knowledge about it, anybody they might have told about it. So they waited until the wedding. That's why they set that specific date.
Then that's what synced it in his mind. That's what happened to my parents.
Yeah.
And everyone else he knew.
Someone's been singing all together the wrong song. So, yeah. And that's our biggest clue on at least one aspect of what the Chandrian are doing is they are trying to eliminate any true knowledge of them. I mean, it seems pretty fucking clear that Denna is right in this situation. They wanted to eliminate any knowledge of that vase, anybody who had any knowledge of them or their signs or anything like that. They want that, that information eliminated. Maybe not their signs, because people are telling those stories. Maybe they can't pull that information back. And also, I think that their signs could be a curse that has been laid upon them rather than powers. But they're definitely trying to eliminate their true history. They don't want their true history out there.
Yeah, I mean, that definitely seems to be the driving force here, because we don't have any other reason. I mean, that's the interesting thing that they talk about earlier with Arwell and Abinthy, where they're saying no one knows their true purpose. What is their purpose? And the only purpose we really get is to squash the knowledge of them.
Yeah, and that's when Scarpy tells that story, that seems to be like they see, like, from Scarpy, it seems like they want to end the world, like that seems to be their main thing. But since that time, something about eliminating any knowledge of them is important as well. And the only thing I could think of that would be a reason why is like Scarpy is like, your names will curse you, and it will hound you or whatever. Like when he lays the curses upon them, some aspect of their names and the knowledge of them is part of the curse that he lays upon them. So it seems like maybe that they're trying to eliminate that as well. That aspect of it has some kind of importance, but it's tough to piece together exactly what the fuck is going on with the Chandrian and the Amir, and exactly why they're hiding information and what their ultimate goal is.
Yeah, what their purpose is. Yeah, there was a part you were just talking about there where I was trying to clarify. You said hiding that too.
Well, like not only trying to end the world, but also this curse that's been laid upon them, that their names are hounding them, or they're cursed by their names calling them across the world. And maybe this is like a fucking living torture, and they're just trying to eliminate any knowledge of them so that they can have some semblance of peace. It could be that they're not killing these people just purely because they're vicious. It could be that they're tormented by, when people have knowledge of them, it's tormenting them, and they're trying to escape this torment.
Oh, that's interesting. Yeah, it makes him a little bit less sinister, and it's almost like self-defense.
Yeah, because, I mean, Scarpy does tell a story where Celatos curses him, so that could be an aspect of it, beyond just trying to eliminate the world. They also are obviously evil, but there's probably a little bit more gray to their reasoning than just like, we're evil, so we just, fuck people up for very little reason.
Yeah, that's not quite as interesting as, there actually being a motivating factor that, lends some credibility to why they do what they do, rather than it just being completely chaotic.
Then the last part of the chapter is the Dracus shows up. They see the flames, and then they go to sleep, and the Dracus shows up, and he helps Denna up to the top of the Greystone archway. And I like when he goes and, he tries to jump up the one side, just slides right back down, can't get up there. So he climbs up on one of the other Greystones, tries to jump to the other side, and then just like slams into it, fucking bangs his knee, can't really grasp anything, so he's kind of like falling down, and Denna grabs him by his hair and fucking shirt and just like yanks him up, pulling his fucking, long, fucking gross red hair. She fucking touches it. It's so gross.
Yeah, I do like the realism
But
of that.
That's funny.
Yeah, rather than like, if this were some heroic ballad, I would tell you how she clasped my hand firmly and pulled me to safety. But instead, it's very non-graceful.
Yeah, she just grabs his shirt and his hair and just yanks him up. And then they look at this fucking gigantic fucking Dracus. Says it was bigger than the Greystone, 6 feet high at the shoulder, 15 feet long, big as a horse cart, massive as a dozen bulls tied together. It was a dragon.
Yeah, it's wild. Well, and also breathing blue fire. So don't leave that out. This massive scaled Komodo dragon looking thing, except it's high. It's way bigger than those ever get. Blowing fire.
All right. The next 2 chapters we can do together they're both real short. Chapter 75 is titled Interlude Obedience. It's a very short chapter, and Kvothe basically chastises Chronicler and Bast for being too subservient. And then in chapter 76 is titled The Mating Habits of the Common Dracus, and it's another short chapter, and Kvothe just explains what a Dracus is to Denna as they watch it try to hump their fire.
Yeah, so there were actually 2 things I wanted to mention in the last chapter that I'd kind of forgotten of. One was when they're talking about one of us needs to stay up with this fire. We got a giant fire-breathing cow down here. She says she wouldn't have any trouble sleeping or staying up. And he asked, do you have trouble sleeping? And she just says, I have dreams. And it just made me think a fella, and how, what the significance of dreams that Kvothe has. And we always know there's got to be more to Denna. And I wonder if she's tapped into something. If she's having dreams that she's not telling Kvothe about, or at least we're not hearing about, where she has some pieces that would put together some of the questions we have about, what's happening in this world.
Well, it could be that, but it certainly... It tells us that it's either something like that, she has premonitions, or that she has nightmares about her past.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
That something very traumatic has happened in her past, and she has bad dreams about it. So one of the 2, I think it's definitely hinting at one of those 2. It's either something traumatic or premonitions. Yeah,
the fact that she says, that Kvothe says she said it in a tone of voice that made it clear that was all she wanted to say on the subject, does kind of hint that maybe it has to do with the dirt of her past, that she's haunted by something. But
yeah, and even if they're premonitions, it seems like they're traumatic.
Yeah.
Like if it was just like, I dream about these things that are about to happen, but if they weren't traumatic, they're clearly nightmares. And she has one. Like when she wakes up, she's like, I'm not going back to sleep. I'm done.
Yeah. Yeah, and then the other thing I was going to mention, just because every time I read it, I think about it, but it was a long time ago, but I was at a zoo in Hawaii, and I heard, first I felt, and then I heard a roar. It was a tiger, and you can literally like feel it in your sternum, like through your whole body. It was probably like 100 yards away. Then I went over and saw that it was literally like pacing back and forth. They were walking, the handlers were walking like a horse or a pony or something like that outside of the tiger's cage. So it was all like jacked up. But I thought of it when I read about when he hears the Dracus, and he equates it. It was the only time he ever saw a lion, and he heard one roar. And the other children in the crowd were frightened, but he laughed, delighted. The sound was so deep and low that I could feel it rumble in my chest. I love the feeling and remember it to this day, which is crazy because it was one of those things that made me feel like I was a frickin' barbarian or something. It's like one of those certain things that happen where you're like, you have those fight or flight feelings where you're just like, we are ancient or something. It's just like one of those situations, which, is very true to life, as Rothfuss tends to do, which
as Fitz likes to say.
What?
It's very true to life.
Fitz says that?
Yeah, he says that almost every episode.
Guess I should have. I don't listen to him.
I had a similar experience as almost exactly the same, where I was in front of an exhibit of chimpanzees, and one chimp like sits in front of the glass, and there's like a bunch of school children in front of me, and we're all just kind of watching the chimps, and then one sits down, kind of just sat there like spread eagle, and another chimp comes up and sits next to him, and then just kind of reaches over and starts jerking off the chimp next to him. And I felt that rumble of laughter, Christ. And my body was just rumbling with laughter as all the little kids were like, look, and I was jumping up and down over top of them to see it and just laughing hysterically. And I felt that rumble in my body. God. Exactly what you guys are talking about. Exact same feeling.
That is not the same. It's hilarious. It is not the same as feeling a threat of your life. But that's pretty fucking funny.
It's an amazing zoo moment where it's like I picked the perfect day to come to the zoo, the perfect time, like the fucking stars are aligned. I was meant to be here in this moment to witness the majestic moment of a chimp jerking off another chimp in front of a bunch of little kids. It was one of the funniest moments I've ever seen.
We were at the lions one time, and the male lion's just sitting on the female, just sitting on her. Like, what the fuck's going on here? And she's like trying to kick him off with one leg. I'm like, this is pretty funny. And then dude just like rolls over on her and just starts humping away, starts going at it. And he's like looking at us while he's doing it. And it was so funny. And what was really funny to me is a bunch of people were like, oh, and they like walked away. I'm like, seriously? Like walk away? Like no. All these
100% watching.
Yeah, like what are you kidding? Like typically, 98% of the time going by these lions, they're asleep. They're never doing anything.
It would have been funny if they were like, get a room. That would have been at least funny. Like, but yeah, if you're literally offended, like, dude, get the fuck out of here. You're going to watch fucking animals.
That was the best. It was the best. That's like the great thing about, and because I got 2 little kids, so we do we used to do the zoo pass, and you go all the time because what else are you gonna do with 2 little kids? And there's always something. Like every trip. There's always something that some animal will do that's quite entertaining. It's usually the chimps, like you were saying. They're typically like the most entertaining. But yeah, that was a great moment. And then also, and even better, is watching. So every now and then you get to turn around and look at all the idiot human beings that think this is an awful moment, and they're just like and walk away like fucking idiots. But,
so it's one of those are nice moments when you're like, wow, me and you, we would hate each other. I can tell you, like, right in this moment, like, I know for certain that me and you would never get along in any situation.
I do, in particular, really, really like these 2 little short chapters because it becomes, it was a dragon to, okay, dragons don't exist, and ends with, it was a dragon. Basically it's 3, well, it's not, well, I guess it's technically the end of a chapter, then 2 chapters saying it was a dragon, it's not a dragon, dragons don't exist, it's a dragon.
Yeah. And then back to it's not a dragon. But, I like to the fact Kavoth stops the story and gives Chronicler a chance, the guy that wrote the book, fucking proven that dragons don't exist and that it's the people are mistaking dragons for this common Dracus. And Chronicler gives him that, like, well, you told me I can't, not to change a word of what you say and just to write. So this is what I had to do to get your story. And it's like, dude, don't be that fucking dude.
I love the white mutiny thing.
Yeah.
Where, what does he say? There are few things as nauseating as pure obedience.
Yes, which I 100% agree with.
Yeah,
even though,
absolutely.
like, I'm, to an extent, yes, the rules and the customs and all that kind of stuff is important, but there's a point where pure obedience is just gross. It's like, dude, you have no individualism at all. You have no discernment. You're not able to separate when, following orders is going to be wrong. That there's a time to that the so strict obedience to rules defeats the purpose.
Yeah, dude. It's one of the grossest traits of human beings, as far as I'm concerned. It's like you're allowing your backbone to completely evaporate along with your sense. So you're not using any of like your human instinct that you've. Well, all right. So you're like ignoring your own human instinct to a degree, and you're also like just washing away any street smarts that you've developed over time, just to be like, okay, well, this is what I was told. It's easier for me to just follow along.
It's the same type of personality that will go to a comedy show and get offended. It's not simply that they didn't find the joke, they didn't find the joke funny.
They showed up with an
it's
agenda.
A topic that that whatever reason there's, it brings up personal things in them, so it's hard for them to laugh at it. They can't find it funny. But instead of just being like, this is not funny to me, they're like, this is something you just don't joke about. And it's like, what the fuck are you talking about?
There's nothing
just because something is not humorous to you does not mean it is not humorous, period.
Yeah.
Like,
as far as
some people like fucking Big Bang Theory. Okay. Not my thing, but if you find it fucking hilarious, that's fucking great. Whatever you fucking like, man.
As far as I'm concerned, there's nothing you don't make fun of. There's nothing you don't laugh at. There's nothing off limits.
Context is everything. Like, you could say the most offensive thing in the world to me, and if the context is you were joking, like, it's either going to be funny or it's not going to be funny.
Yeah.
I'm not going to be offended by it, though. I'm not going to be like, that's offensive. That's so wrong. I'm so offended. Like, no, you suck.
Well,
get away from me.
And what's really, and here's another one where it's just like, we won't be friends. Thank you for letting me know. But also, I mean, what's interesting to me, and I'm not alone on this, but the things that are basically on the surface untouchable, that's the funniest. Because you're not supposed to. It's, oh, no, you can't talk about that. Well, then that's going to be the funniest thing in the world to me.
Yeah.
Because to you, to the mass populace of just being complete freaking dorks, make it funnier.
Yeah.
Well, that could be that could be offensive to someone in the world. So I'm not laughing. I'm not going to laugh. Absolutely not.
Oh, man, there's also a lot to find humor in offending someone who is like that. It is funny to see their reaction and for them to flip out, and it's hilarious to watch them get so mad at a joke, and then it's like, well, now I just want to keep pushing your buttons because it is very funny to me that you are that mad.
Yes, then it just literally becomes, now you are what's funny about this. Yeah. Just your persona itself is what we're all laughing at.
Your reaction is the punchline now.
Oh, man. Yeah.
The joke almost doesn't matter. Your reaction is what's funny. But yeah, so I like that Kavoth fucking drops that in there, because that is something that, I 100% agree with. I hate fucking just people that throw out context and they just have rules on this is the way you do, something in this situation. You just follow the rules, or you don't talk about this. You can only talk about that. You don't use this word. You can only use this word. Like, fuck those people.
Yeah, it's basically putting your judgment on like cruise control. Like, well, no, I'm on cruise. I'm not looking at those things now. Yeah. I'm not considering this part of my, this part of existence.
The whole reason I like rule books is that the rule books think for me.
They lay out the plan. I continue to breathe and eat food, and I just walk the path. It's safer. It's safer that way. It's safer that way. And if we all just did the same thing, then we'd all be boring pieces of shit.
But I do like too, though, when he comes back into it, and she's like, it's a dragon. It's like, nah, it's not a dragon. There's no such thing as dragons. It's like, it's right there. Look at the huge goddamn dragon. Yeah. It's a Dracus, I said. It's goddamn huge, Dennis said with a tinge of hysteria in her voice. It's a goddamn huge dragon. It's going to come over here and eat us. It doesn't eat meat. It's a herbivore. It's like a big cow. Dennis looked at me and started to laugh. Not hysterical laughter, but the helpless laughter of someone who just heard something so funny that she can't help but bubble over with it. And then she's like, moo.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a pretty good moment where the two of them are just... We get this a few times with them. I feel like it happens also when they're with the mayor or at the mayor's estate and they're like hiding in the bushes or whatever. And yeah, it's just these moments where it's just like, it's kind of fun to be in that moment with them where it's just like, what else do you do? I mean, this is fucking incredible. So you just kind of like laugh at like, what is happening right now?
It's actually a pretty incredible piece of writing because of how natural it feels, like in their description, and you could feel the hysterical laughter, the kind of that fear, you're scared shitless, and then someone says something that startles you, and then but you still got that fucking fear in you, and then you're still like trying to crack a joke in the midst of this hysteria.
Yeah, it's like a coping mechanism.
Kind of fucking yeah. Like you get a real, like it feels real. It feels like a real like normal interaction, and the jokes land, and he's such an incredible writer. Like, I mean, those are things where you just kind of take it for granted when you read it. It's like, yeah, that's a good scene. I like that scene. But like when you think about like if you were trying to write a scene like that, it's hard to do. It's hard to, like if you were writing that scene, most people would not write that scene that way.
No, that's a really good point. I mean, when you're considering, all right, how do I introduce this massive thing? It's probably going to be with intimidation and fear. And that's kind of it. You're not going to think, I mean, I wouldn't think most writers would think to balance it out with humor or awkward coping humor. And it works tremendously. And I think you're right. I think you do. It's something that through the read through, you are likely to take for granted. Because of everything that kind of follows it. But this is the introduction. This is how we get into it. And we get into it introduced in this way where we are really with them. We're really 100% with them in this scene because we're like emotionally with them and kind of coping in this way.
Yeah, you can tell Rothfuss writes the scenes where it's not necessarily like, he's not like, I'm trying to convey this information. He's more, it seems like, I can't speak for him, but it seems like what he's doing is he's like, okay, this is Kavoth's personality. This is Dennis' personality. How would they react if I put them in this scenario? And then he writes based on who he thinks they are as people and how they would react to the situation. Where, like, if replace Denna with the master of the archives, Lauren, and it's a completely different scene.
Yeah, for sure.
There's not the humor there, and like it's just it would be a much different scene. But like I think that's the way he kind of writes is like he because when it is a scene with Master Lauren or it's a scene with Elodin or with Ari or Sim and Will, they're all very different scenes, and you get the sense that he is just getting in in their shoes and just acting out, he knows he's created these people, and so he knows them down to their fucking core.
Yeah.
And he writes them, and it's very difficult to take all these different personality traits and to be able to convey them and to make it in a way that it just feels natural to the point where, unless you just stop and you step back and you think about what he's doing, sometimes you don't appreciate, how impressive it is that he's able to do all these things. And it always feels so natural. The conversations just like, there's never times where I'm reading it and I'm like, man, that seems very out of, so out of character for these people. It just doesn't seem like this is how they would react.
No, yeah, I think what you're speaking of is true. I think he seems to know his characters down to their very core. Yeah, and I think he probably does, like, very, if not in his mind, he writes them out. I have to personally write these things out to create a really in-depth character sketch, so you really know this person, so you can really see clearly how they would act in the situation. Because if you don't know the character like that, then everything's just situational. So you're just piecing things together to try to get things moving in the direction you're trying to get them to move. Part of this, though, and part of my instinct when you brought up what you mentioned a moment ago about like how he plays this chapter out, it almost feels like in some senses he knows the trope and the cliche or the rational way that something could be presented, and then makes it go a different way, and makes like consciously does something different. And part of that could just be a function of these characters are so different that that just happens together. But it does almost seem like, in a sense, that he does go out of his way to do it in a different way, because I mean, I don't care who these characters are, or I mean, I would say nearly every character in the book comes upon the Dracus like this, they're going to be alarmed. I mean, virtually anybody, you'd have to know quite a bit about them at the outset to not have that type of reaction. But
it's massive. I mean, it's enormous. It's breathing fire and fucking pulling up trees and shit. So, yeah, I mean, it's going to scare the shit out of him. But then also, like, he subverts a lot of the fantasy tropes. And, so it's not Kvothe fighting a fucking dragon to save Denna, and he's got to fight this fucking dragon. No, they just go and fucking hide from it and start cracking jokes and are laughing their ass off. And then, he eventually has to destroy this dragon because it's a drug addict.
It's so interesting.
It's a much different fucking. It's a much different story than typically you run into a dragon type creature. It is, I have to fight the dragon to save the girl. It's like, no, this dragon's a fucking big cow. It's a vegetarian and it just eats fucking trees, but this one got fucking hooked on fucking meth and on meth trees, and fucking he saw a fire in town and went to destroy the town, but it's an innocent fucking creature that doesn't, really deserve to die, but he has to kill it to save the town. He's got to do what he's got to do. There's nothing like that. You don't read fucking stories like that. Like a fucking a methed out fucking dragon. There's no fucking story like that.
Yeah.
Like he goes to great lengths to create scenarios that we've never come across before, and that are, that would seem like, so like if he just told you that, so I'm going to have this dragon, but it's not really a dragon. But it's a lizard that breathes fire and it's really big, and then it's like it's a drug addict. It's like hooked on meth trees, and you'd be like, "What?" But no, it's fucking awesome.
Yeah,
it's fucking amazing.
Yeah, no, it's the I don't know what to call them. The dynamics, the conflicts that he embeds in the situation is tremendous, because Kvothe has these tough choices that he has to make, and I love how he does the mathematical try to figure out, well, how much, and then keeps adding more and keeps adding more and keeps adding more, which could if you explained it out the way you just described, it'd be like, dude, monotonous. Let's go. Okay, fine.
Yeah.
I get it. But it works so tremendously. Which, by the way, the thing to me that was like made the thing the scariest to me is how fast it is. Because of how massive it is. And man, I don't like lizards to begin with. At least not like these, like Komodo dragons and Gila monsters and those things. I don't want to be anywhere close to those freaking things. I don't even want to see them when I go to the zoo. They creep me out, man. Like the feet and the tongue and all that shit. But to picture one as big as this, and then to see it the way it's written move as fast as it does, dude, get me the fuck away from this thing. I need. I don't know what I need. I need like a Gatling gun or something extraordinarily vicious to defend myself against this freaking thing. Or apparently really high gray stones to get up on, and a shit ton of meth.
Why it humps your fire.
Yeah.
But it shows you like his skill in writing. Like he does something completely different that I've never seen before. Like as far as like a dragon in a fantasy story, it's so different, and it's not really a dragon. It's just a giant lizard. It's a herbivore. It doesn't eat meat. It's not fucking hiding things. It's a drug addict, and it goes into town. He's got to fucking save it, and it's very interesting dynamic. But then also like you have like when he's seeing it with Denna, they're fucking cracking funny jokes, and it's a humorous scene, and there's a lot of humor in these scenes. Like he does a great job of threading the needle on making the interaction with it seem very natural, and it fits their personalities, fits their characters, it's entertaining, and then also it's different. It's the scope of the story, the actual where it's leading, it's not in the typical place that you would expect, where in a situation like this is you save the girl from the dragon is what you typically get.
It's funny too because they're like tired. You know what I mean? Like they have to. They're like in need of sleep, and they're kind of like hysterically laughing at the absurdity in the threatening situation. I mean, it's kind of. I mean, it's kind of the opposite of how you would expect this type of thing to be introed. You would think threat, and they're running in a panic, and now they got to defend themselves, or they hide out. It wouldn't. You wouldn't think it'd be
And it doesn't even take any interest in them. They're just watching it and like just observing it, like like they're at a zoo.
Yeah.
Where like it's not like this thing, like he didn't put it in a situation where like this thing came up there and then it saw them and tried to knock down the fucking gray stones that they're sitting on top of, trying to get them. Like it doesn't even acknowledge them. It's interested in humping their fire, and that's it.
I'm trying to remember now the tree farm. Oh yeah, it's they're basically cultivating the dinner resin.
Yeah, that's what it ends with. Is they.
So you basically had a smack factory for this dude. For this giant lizard.
So one of my favorite aspects of the first story is he's got basically a methed out fucking dragon. Is one of the,
with a constant,
the most heroic aspects of the story for Kvothe is he saves a town from a meth dragon.
Well, who had a consistent like farmed supply. Yeah. It's not like he's just going out like there. Yeah,
through a long process, slowly but surely got hooked to meth,
and is massive because he has a consistent supply. Meth. Well, but he also has a consistent supply of these massive trees. Yeah, what a weird, But and that's the thing. I mean, we've been hearing about dinner resin since Tarbeen, if not just I guess since Tarbeen. So we know. I mean, he layers all this stuff in.
It's not only a meth dragon, but like Kvothe goes back to that hill, and then starts a big fire, and then gets him fucking high as fuck, and then.
And then it gets high as shit.
But once he's on that hill where he can see out over the land, then that dragon sees the fire in the town. Like Kvothe just like fucking got this fucking thing fucking revved up,
all jacked up,
and then fucking sent him on his way to that town.
Yeah, he kind of fucked that up.
Pointed the thing right at him, and as he's fucking jacked out of his mind, get this thing fucking just coked out of his mind, fucking ready to fucking go fuck shit up.
And he's super motivated too, because he's about to get a massive fix. At least that's what he thinks he's about to get.
Oh man, when he saw those fucking sexy ass fires in that town, he was ready to fucking go get his fucking thing on. He's ready to hump that whole fucking town. Yeah, it's these are an interesting bunch of chapters. It's immensely entertaining and super creative and bizarre too.
Yeah, I mean, and that's one of the compliments we always say is it never lets up, and every time it's like, oh yeah, and then there's this, oh yeah, and then there's this coming, and then this coming, and yeah, it's freaking great, man. And nothing's out of the blue. I mean, things are, but then they aren't. Like, yeah, the Dracus is out of the blue, but we already heard about the book, about Chronicler's book, so we've heard of a Dracus, so we've heard of this thing existing. We also addicted to denner resin, but we know what denner resin is, right? This is all sort of led towards to where we get to, and that's peppered throughout everything.
And that's also one of the best things is, like, you get all the denner shit, and then the most denner aspect of the story is a fucking dragon hooked on denner. It's like, that's where it all culminates in.
Yeah, it's true. We don't really get much else after this.
It's not like one of his friends gets hooked on dinner and he's got to fucking bring him down off of it and save him. It's like, no, this fucking tree-eating dragon gets hooked on fucking dinner. And
well, except for Denna.
Its mind.
Except for Denna. Denna does get herself a big old hit of some opium tar. Just chomping that shit up.
Yeah, but she just felt good.
It's pretty good. She tripped out. It was pretty good.
Yeah.
Made it sound like fun. She's like, I feel really good. Like, really good.
Well, I could do it. Like, I wouldn't get hooked. So, I could at least fucking do it a little bit. I'll try it. I'll just one time. And one time ain't gonna fucking kill me.
Yeah, that's one thing about Kavoth. Yeah, he'd be a lot more realistic if you'd have been like, all right. I'm going to watch you here, but let me get a little... Let me get a little rip.
He took some of the dinner and started rubbing it on his gums.
Yeah, exactly. Let me get a little rip.
He's like, well, if dinner's going to fucking have all the fun, like, I'm not going to be alone.
Yeah, that would have backfired.
Like, I'm not just hanging out with someone on fucking drugs with while I'm fucking dead sober.
Yeah.
Getting a little fucked up, too.
Well, let's see what Dracus is feeling. Let me get a little... Yeah, let me get a little rip here.
Yeah, that's his excuse. Well, I'm only doing this so I can get in the mind of a Dracus that's on drugs.
It's like a vice cop.
Yeah.
That's his reason to get hooked on coke. He's like, well, I got to stop this thing. How else was I going to do it?
I got to get in the mind of them, so I got to see what they feel.
Pretty sure that would have...
That's why I do it.
That would have backfired pretty bad, because Denna needed a big old nap. Pull her shit together.
Yeah. But yeah, I think that pretty much covers it for me on all these fucking chapters. The one thing I did want to bring up, and I feel like this would have been something that Fitz would appreciate, is I think one of the huge underlying clues is I think the Dracus is Telu. Do you have any evidence to back this up at all, or are you just going to go with? Well, I could see, like, he's very spiritual, and I think this dinner is a very spiritual drug.
Okay,
so
we're just going to take that
and like the iron falls on him, like the iron wheel falls on him. That's fucking Telu. Telu fucking's all about the iron wheel.
Okay,
right? So yeah, it's all Telu. So
when you say Denner's spiritual, I don't really make the connection there. Should I just take you at your word on that?
I don't know. It's I'm not religious. I'm spiritual. It's like one of those things.
Wow, that's so different. I've never heard someone say that before.
Like when someone says that, you don't really like dig in. You just kind of fucking just take it.
Oh,
fucking be like, oh, okay, no, I got what you're saying. you're like a hippie.
But
yeah.
Yeah.
So Fitz will appreciate that. The Dracus is I mean, everybody's Telu.
Yeah,
but
everyone
the Dracus is definitely Telu.
Yeah, he's like super. He's really tapped in, especially when he's on dinner because that's spiritual according to you. So
when the wheel
high,
smashes him, he goes back up into angel. He becomes Telu as an angel again, and then he's born again into someone else. It's clearly what Rothfuss is doing.
So this massive dinosaur ends up being born into Ambrose. Somebody.
Well, I mean, yeah, whatever. Yeah, it's all whatever.
Whatever. I can't necessarily refute what you're saying. It's not very interesting.
There's no evidence against it.
Just because there's no evidence, if it doesn't make the book any better, then I think that's probably evidence enough.
Agree to disagree.
Yes, I also. Yeah, I'll agree.
Oh man! So I think
next coming up
next episode 20, getting close to the end. We're going to. I didn't really look ahead, so I mean I know
we got the Dracus.
We're gonna have. They're gonna find where the Dracus is getting its fix, and so I think it's just more stuff with the Dracus. I mean, Dinah's gonna get all fucking ecstasied out. She's gonna reveal some information. Dracus is gonna fucking eat some dinner trees. They're gonna probably get to where they feed it the dinner resin, and I think the furthest we would get is the Dracus attacking the fucking the city
town. Yeah, because it's kind of close. I mean, yeah, it's very much about how intense the dinner resin hold it has on him is, or what that ends up creating, and then the next thing is Kavoth's badass. What do you call it? What he does to try to defeat the Dracus and save the town and turn into
his sympathy and shit.
Well, actually, what it is is Telu works through Kavoth.
Yeah.
Right. And
Telu, Kavoth is Telu reborn.
Yeah. And then
and he's also Haliax.
Whoa, really?
But Haliax is Telu, so.
Jesus, this is getting difficult to piece all these things or pull all these things apart.
You just got to think about it a lot.
So book 3, instead of Doors of Stone, it's just going to be like everyone's Telu.
Yeah,
that's the title.
Yeah.
Everyone's Telu.
No, the title we have already established. It's going to be Hanging Tough.
Oh yeah, with the Arby's and Burger King logo.
Yeah,
posted all over the cover.
That's Jack in the Box, Burger King.
I said Arby's. Shit.
Yeah. Yep. Hanging Tough. Got the fucking Will, Sim, and Kavoth.
Like a K-pop, a little K-pop picture of all 4 of them with like little,
like
little
haircuts. It's like a hologram book cover where, like, as you move the book, they're like doing different dance moves.
Or like little poses like you'd see like the New Kids on the Block doing. Yeah, that's great.
It's gonna be so fucking dope. I can't wait till they get to the boy band stuff. It's gonna be by far the most interesting aspect of it, and it's going to confirm like how well we fucking figured these books out for everybody who's doubting us. Anybody who's doubting our theories, oh man, talk about a shit pants moment. You open that book up and you see it's a hologram cover of the fucking boys doing fucking dance moves titled Hanging Tough. Yeah, you're gonna fucking shit your pants.
Yes, I think a lot of people would be shitting their pants when they see that. Like, what in the shit? What did he do here?
He did do it. They were right.
And then all the coupons fall out for your Jack in the Box, your free taco, and
Woody when he releases that cover and it's titled Hanging Tough and it's got a hologram image on there and he releases that and he shows what the title, the cover page is going to look like, our podcast is going to blow the fuck up. People are going to be combing through every episode trying to fucking figure it all out.
Well, that's going to lend a lot more credibility to the Mario
We're going to go
theory.
from like 20 million listeners an episode, 20, 30 million episodes a listener to like 60 million listeners an episode.
That sounds about right. No, the math works out. Yeah.
Yeah. So, Spotify, hit me up like 500 million. That's it. That's all I'm asking. But, all right. That will fucking do it for this week. Fitz may or may not be back. He might have another Oompa Loompa, whatever they're called, convention, But he'll probably be back next week, and we will see you guys there. So fucking peace out.
Bye-bye.